Chapter 41:37. Seeing Suzhou suddenly rush towards the back of the mountain, the leaders of the other two camps looked at each other. After instructing the others to continue attacking the eye of the formation, Imo, Fayu, the green-robed elder, Ziyu, and the others followed. When they arrived at the back of the mountain, they found that Suzhou had stopped in front of Crack. His face was green and white. "Suzhou, there's no one here. It seems that Zhuowen and the others have already left." The green-robed elder came to Suzhou's side and asked doubtfully, "No, Zhuowen and the others may have already entered this crack. There may be a path to the depths of Purple Flame, Divine Mountain in this crack." Ziyu said with a gloomy face, "What? How do you know that this crack is the path to the depths of Purple Flame, Divine Mountain?" Mo Fayu turned pale with fright and asked calmly, "Have you forgotten? Ziyu and I were the first to discover that the tomb of that expert was hidden in Purple Flame Divine Mountain. Back then, we had already searched everywhere in the vicinity of Purple Flame Divine Mountain, and we've already entered this crack." Suzhou clenched his fists and said somewhat angrily, "You've already entered? Then why are you still here to help us break the formation? Shouldn't you have already entered?" The green-robed elder snorted coldly. He was clearly dissatisfied that Ziyu and Suzhou were hiding something from them. If this place was easy to enter, we would have already entered. There were all kinds of extremely terrifying traps hidden in this passage. Once the traps were triggered, they would attract an extremely terrifying attack. Suzhou and I joined forces to enter. But after a third of the way in, we couldn't take it anymore and retreated in a sorry state. If any of you are more confident, you can enter now. I won't stop you." Ziyu said coldly. Mo Fayu and the others' expressions changed slightly. They hadn't expected that there would be another mystery in this crack. "It's because this place is so strange that we suspect that this crack is likely another path to Purple Flame Divine Mountain. It's a shortcut used by that expert's loyal subordinates to enter and exit. Since there are traps here, then Zhuowen and the others naturally can't enter. I think you're overthinking it." The green-robed elder shook his head and laughed. Suzhou grunted coldly and said, "Didn't all of you notice that a grand formation has been set up outside the rift? It must have been set up by Zhuowen and the others. Their purpose was to prevent us from detecting them with our divine sense. They might have already entered the depths of the crevice." Mo Fengyu and the others were startled. If Suzhou's guess was true, wouldn't that mean that Zhuowen's group will be the first to reach this tomb? I don't believe you. I'll go in and try." The green-robed old man was obviously not interested in Suzhou's speculation. With a cold snort, he stepped into the crack. Not long after, an extremely terrifying aura and energy ripples came from the crack. Then, a miserable figure was forced to retreat. This sorry figure was the green-robed old man. "Mother of Asterisk, there really are a lot of traps here," the green-robed elder said with lingering fear. With the green-robed old man's personal experience, everyone believed Suzhou's guess. "This is just my guess. Regardless of whether Zhuowen's group has successfully entered the Divine Mountain or not, we need to hurry up and break through the crevice. Everyone, I know you still have trump cards. Right now, time is precious. Let's not waste any more time. All right, show us all your trump cards." Suzhou stood tall and said coldly to everyone. Then, he returned to the front of the Divine Mountain. Mo Fengyu, the green-robed old man, and the others looked at each other and nodded secretly as if they had reached some kind of agreement. They followed Suzhou back to the front of the Divine Mountain. Zhuowen's group of 4, who had entered the Divine Mountain, naturally didn't know that their whereabouts had been discovered. At this moment, the 4 of them were running up the stairs. The stairs were endless, as if there was no end. They extended all the way to an extremely high point. "Brother Zhua, according to our speed, we should have climbed much higher than the height of the Purple Flame Divine Mountain. Why haven't we reached the end of the stairs?" Duan Jiping asked doubtfully. "There's a maze here. We've actually been going around in circles. While we were running, I was observing this maze. Now I found a way to break it." As Zhuowen spoke, he suddenly stopped. Then his 10 fingers danced in the air like perfect fireworks. Complex runes surged out from his fingertips. Duan Jiping and the other two stopped behind Zhuowen, silently waiting for Zhuowen to break the formation. Not long after, they discovered that the surrounding space had become distorted. Finally, with a cracking sound, it completely shattered. In the depths of the shattered space, a ray of purple light rushed in, accompanied by a scorching heat. Zhuowen and the other three involuntarily narrowed their eyes. When they completely opened their eyes, they saw that what appeared in front of them was no longer an endless flight of stairs. Instead, it was a grand and magnificent, enormous palace. This palace stood on the peak of the mountain. It was luxurious and magnificent. Its entire body was forged from pure white jade, and its surface exuded a shockingly rich, chaotic energy. Holy **T. The entire shrine is made of supreme-grade chaos gems. That's way too extravagant. Duan Jiping's eyes widened as he looked at the huge palace in front of him in disbelief. The palace was simply too huge. The entire structure was built with supreme-grade chaos gems. The number of chaos gems needed to build, it was probably extremely terrifying. Even if they cultivated desperately for so many years, they might not be able to obtain so many chaos gems. To obtain so many chaotic gems and build such a huge palace. This palace could be the expert's mausoleum. TSK, as expected of a cosmic dharma expert. This foundation is too deep. Lin Long and his wife were full of admiration. Their eyes were already filled with passion. Zhuowen was the calmest of the four. He immediately noticed the surrounding environment and realized that they were on the peak of the Purple Flame Sacred Mountain. On the surface of the Purple Flame Sacred Mountain, the purple divine flames that seemed to never be extinguished burned and raged in the surroundings. However, they deliberately kept a distance of a few hundred feet from the mausoleum. Zhuowen's group happened to be within this range. Hence, they were not affected by the purple divine flames. At the same time, Zhuowen also noticed that there was a purple pearl at the peak of the palace. Chapter 4138. The sealing power of the Purple Flame Sacred Mountain won't last much longer. Let's hurry into the mausoleum. We have to be quick. Take whatever we can, and don't waste time on those we can't. Zhuowen shouted and led the way into the mausoleum. Duan Jiping and the other two immediately snapped out of their stupor at Zhuowen's shout. They suppressed the excitement in their hearts and hurriedly followed. This was the mausoleum of a cosmic dharma powerhouse. It contained the life savings of this powerhouse. There must be many good things inside. The mausoleum was very large and was divided into many side halls. These side halls were like a maze, surrounding the main hall in the center of the mausoleum. Not all of these side halls had treasures. Only about 10% of the side halls could store treasures. The other 90% of the side halls had all kinds of traps and restrictions. If one was not strong enough and fell into these side halls, they would easily die. The layout of the side halls was too complicated. Although Zhuowen had inherited by Tiangong's memories, he could not distinguish which side hall stored treasures and which side halls had traps. Bai Tiangong had only been to the mausoleum once. Back then, Lu Yinhua had not died, and the mausoleum had just been built. After the mausoleum was built, it had become Lu Yinhua's private forbidden area. Even he had no right to enter the mausoleum without Lu Yinhua's orders. Therefore, Zhuowen currently only knew a path that led to the main hall. As for whether the side halls he passed by on the way had anything good, that was something he couldn't say for sure. After all, Bai Tiangong was not the craftsman who built the mausoleum. To know the route to the main hall was already a great fortune for Zhuowen. Zhuowen did not hide this from Duan Jiping and the other two. After all, they were a team. Zhuowen could not possibly have the idea of taking everything for himself. The main hall must contain the most precious treasures of this mausoleum. We don't need to waste time in the side halls. Let's go straight to the main hall. Duan Jiping said in a low voice. Brother Duan is right. It won't be too late to explore the side halls after we've finished looting the main hall. Lin Long and his wife nodded in agreement. After the four of them reached an agreement, Zhuowen took the lead and rushed into the depths of the mausoleum. As he went deeper and deeper, Zhuowen couldn't help but feel grateful that Bai Tiangong had taken the initiative to take over his body. With Bai Tiangong's memories, he walked the correct path in the mausoleum. He didn't need to worry about the dangers and traps hidden in the mausoleum. This was because their keen divine senses could sense that the deeper they went into the mausoleum, the more dangerous the aura they could sense. If they were to fall into that kind of danger, it would be very difficult to deal with, and it would take a lot of time. After about an incense stick's worth of time, the group of four stopped in front of a huge jade door. The huge door was carved from some kind of jade stone that contained a powerful and mysterious energy. Many birds and beasts were carved on both sides of the door. Most of them were exotic beasts Zhuowen had never seen before. Yes, there's some kind of extremely powerful restriction on this huge door. It was a combination of numerous first firmament eternal level restrictions. It was an extremely complex combination array. Its power is infinitely close to that of a second firmament eternal level restriction. Zhuowen's gaze fell on the huge door, and his expression became very serious. Then what should we do? Brother Zhuo, your array Dao is only at the first firmament of the eternal grade. You can't break the restriction on this huge door, right? Duan Jiping said dejectedly. Let me try. Zhuowen stepped forward and pressed his right hand on the crystal-clear lacquer surface of the huge door. This combined array was called the Jade Gate God-Slaying Array. It was jointly arranged by 19 divine masters of array Dao at the first firmament of the eternal grade. Bai Tiangong was one of the 19 divine masters of array Dao. He knew the principle and essence of this combined array. After learning the principle of this array, even if Zhuowen's array Dao was not at the level of this array, he believed that with the power of the primordial stone, Zhuowen should be able to break it. However, it might take some time. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the entire hall shook violently, as if it had been hit by some extremely terrifying force. Duan Jiping's face was gloomy. He said in a low voice, I think the restriction on the purple flame sacred mountain has been broken. The people outside will be able to break in soon. Lin Long and his wife were so scared that their faces turned pale. If that was really the case, they would definitely be condemned by everyone if they met them because they had taken a shortcut. Their situation would not be too good. The main hall is not that easy to find. I can break this array. I just need to break it before they find the main hall. Protect me. Zhuowen's expression was calm. After instructing Duan Jiping and the other two, he sat cross-legged in front of the huge door and began to deduce the method to break the Jade Door God-Slaying Array. He believed that as long as he could successfully break this array, his array Dao level would rise again. At that time, his array Dao level would reach the peak of the first firmament of the eternal grade. At the same time that Zhuowen was breaking the array, the purple bead on the mountain peak finally shattered. As for the boundless purple flames on the surface of the purple flame divine mountain, due to the destruction of the purple pearls, all of them were extinguished. All of a sudden, the terrifying sacred mountain became a little bare. The giant hall that stood on the peak of the sacred mountain finally revealed its true appearance. Everyone could see clearly that the purple bead floating at the top of the hall was the eye of the array. But now, the purple bead had been reduced to powder. This hall should be the tomb of that expert. There must be many treasures inside. Mo Fingyo's face was full of excitement. His whole body was trembling. That was a sign of extreme excitement. The green-robed elder, Ziyu, and the others' breathing also became hot. Their eyes were fixed on the hall in front of them. Sure enough, someone has beaten us to it. Suzhou was the calmest. His gaze fell on a deep passageway not far from the hall. At the exit of the passageway, there was still the remnant aura of Zhuowen and the others. The door of the hall was also open. Obviously, someone had come in ahead of time. Is it Zhuowen and the others? Mo Fengyu asked with an ugly expression. It's very likely the four of them. Don't waste any more time. Next, we'll enter the main hall to fight for the treasures. Our temporary alliance no longer exists. Next, whoever is more capable will get the best treasures. Suzhou's voice was still cold. After he finished speaking, he turned into a rainbow and rushed into the hall. Behind Suzhou, Ziyu and the rest of the team rushed forward like locusts passing through a territory. Chapter 41:39. When the people of the three camps all rushed into the huge mausoleum, the even more shocking number of cultivators outside the Divine Mountain all flocked in like crazy. They were like locusts passing through a border, and it was quite a spectacular sight. However, when these people all gathered inside the mausoleum, they were shocked to find that the inside of the mausoleum was simply a big mausoleum. Not only were the routes complicated, but there were also many terrifying traps in the side halls along the way. Not long after they entered, there were already many cultivators who died because they accidentally entered the dangerous side palace. The same scene kept repeating in every corner of the mausoleum. Brother Suzhou, we found that no one has touched these side halls along the way. If someone got here first, it's impossible that they haven't touched a single side hall. After all, there is still a small number of treasures in these side halls. Bays. Ziyu followed closely behind Suzhou. He saw that there were still intact side halls along the way and raised the doubts in his heart. Suzhou narrowed his eyes. Brother Ziyu, although I haven't entered this mausoleum, I can guess that the mausoleum's owner built a maze-like route around the mausoleum. It's made up of side halls just to confuse the public. The things in these side halls are not bad, but do you think they can compare to that expert's personal treasures? Ziyu is a smart person. He naturally heard the meaning behind Suzhou's words. He whispered, Brother Suzhou, do you mean that Zhuowen and the others who came in before us deliberately didn't touch these side halls? Their goal is to hide in them. The main hall? This is the only explanation that makes sense. We have to hurry up. We can't fall behind everyone every time. Suzhou faintly smiled. His enormous divine sense spread out and began to carefully search for any clues in the surroundings. Many cultivators in Suzhou's territory couldn't resist the greed in their hearts and left the group. They began to explore the side halls along the way, hoping to find good opportunities. Even Fu Di, Zhan Anshin, and the other geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard began to become restless. They found reasons to leave the group and search for treasures on their own. Brother Suzhou, Fu Di, Shun En, Lai Rong, and the others have all left the team. Our team is gradually decreasing. Should we stop them? Ziyu naturally noticed this. Her eyes were cold as she whispered to Suzhou. Suzhou patted Ziyu's shoulder and smiled. Brother Ziyu, our team is united on the premise of benefits and expectations. People's hearts are not united. Now that we've entered the mausoleum, everyone has their own thoughts. Our hearts have long been scattered. Why should we? What if I force it? Next, we just need to take care of ourselves. Ziyu's displeasure was slightly restrained. She didn't care about the cultivators who took the opportunity to leave the group. Ziyu's attitude made many cultivators bolder. Then, more and more people broke away from their group. The loss of troops wasn't just limited to Suzhou and Ziyu. The green-robed elder and the witchcraft god clan were also facing the same predicament, especially the green-robed elder. His team was basically made up of individual cultivators. They had no discipline at all. The speed at which they lost members was extremely shocking. Although the witchcraft god clan also lost members, because they were from the same clan, the loss wasn't as serious as the other two camps. Old Ancestor, there's so many side halls here. Some of them have good treasures. Are we not going to fight for anything? Why are we just following behind Suzhou and the others? Mo Liuhua couldn't help but ask Mo Fengyu. Mo Liuhua said, Liuhua, can't you see? These side halls are actually a feint by the Mausoleum Master. The things hidden inside are just small profits. And we're not here just for small profits. We're here for big profits, and it's best if all of them. Suzhou is very smart. He knows that he shouldn't fight for small profits with those individual cultivators. Instead, he should focus on finding the real treasure of the mausoleum. We won't go wrong following them. Remember, we have to keep an eye on them. Mo Fengyu said confidently. Mo Liuhua and Lu Yingying looked at each other. Although they felt that Mo Fingyo's words made sense, they still couldn't help but look at the cultivators fighting over the treasures. They felt rather regretful. Not long after everyone rushed into the mausoleum, Duan Jiping and the other two, who were guarding Zhuowen, also felt a powerful energy ripple inside the mausoleum. They immediately sensed that it was the energy ripples of cultivators fighting. Moreover, it wasn't just one or two ripples, but many that appeared in various directions of the mausoleum. It seems that the cultivators outside have all entered the mausoleum. I'm afraid that they'll find this place soon. Duan Jiping said with a gloomy expression. What should we do? Zhuowen can't break the restriction on the main hall door in a short time. Lin Long and his wife said rather anxiously. Duan Jiping frowned slightly. He silently watched Zhuowen's back as he broke the formation. For a moment, his mind was in a mess, and he didn't know what to do. Time passed minute by minute. Su Zhou and Ziyu continued to go deeper into the mausoleum. Although they had taken many wrong paths, they had accumulated a lot of experience and had a general understanding of the mausoleum's route. Brother Su Zhou, our team has all left. We're the only ones left. Ziyu and Su Zhou stopped in front of a dead end. Ziyu shrugged and said rather helplessly, We're not the only ones left. Look at those people behind us. Haven't they been following us all this time? Su Zhou smiled faintly. Ziyu glanced at the green-robed elder, Mo Fengyu, and the others who were following closely behind them. She pursed her lips and said, I think they're running out of patience. I'm afraid that if we keep going, they'll give up. After all, it's been 5 days since we entered the mausoleum. It's been 5 days. We've missed too many opportunities in the past 5 days. I think that almost all the side halls here have been turned upside down by others. There won't even be anything left for us. Su Zhou said confidently, I really don't care about the things in the side halls. And it's not like I didn't gain anything. I've already collected most of the mausoleum's route. Now, I finally know where the main hall at the core of the mausoleum is. I know where it is. After he finished speaking, Su Zhou let out a hearty laugh, and with a stomp of his right foot, he flashed out of the dead end and quickly dashed towards a certain path. Brother Su Zhou, wait for me. Ziyu hurriedly chased after Su Zhou. She kept muttering that Su Zhou was crazy. Chapter 4140. Su Zhou was extremely fast. He was like a stream of light, shuttling through side halls and crossing intersections. This Su Zhou's route is too strange. It doesn't follow common sense at all. Mo Fengyu and the others who were following closely behind were surprised. Their hearts were filled with puzzlement. About half an hour later, Mo Fengyu and the others discovered that their path had completely changed. Or rather, the entire surrounding environment had become completely different. Then, they saw Su Zhou, who had been constantly rushing ahead, suddenly stop in front of them. Brother Su Zhou, why did you stop again? Ziyu walked forward and patted Su Zhou's shoulder. She was surprised to find that there was a bottomless abyss in front of Su Zhou. It was pitch black and strange. Above the abyss, there was a huge bridge. They were at one end of the long bridge, and on the other end, there was a huge palace. This hall was far more majestic than those side halls in the maze. As it stood there, it was like a divine hall that had existed since time immemorial, sacred and inviolable. Is this the main palace hidden in the deepest part of the mausoleum? Ziyu's eyes blazed. She looked at the huge palace on the other end of the bridge and said excitedly. The green-robed elder, Mo Fengyu, and the others finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that following Su Zhou had been the right choice. Yes, this is the main palace. Also, someone really did beat us to it. Su Zhou smiled faintly. His eyes under the silver mask fell on the 4 figures in front of the main palace gate. It's Zhuowen, Duan Jiping, and the others. It seems that brother Su Zhou's guess was right. There really is a shortcut in the crack behind Purple Flame Divine Mountain. Ziyu couldn't help but give Su Zhou a thumbs up. On the other end of the bridge, Duan Jiping and the others who had been guarding Zhuowen naturally discovered Su Zhou and the others. Their expressions changed greatly. Not good. It's Suzhou and the others. How do they find this place so quickly? Lin Long and his wife asked anxiously. Duan Jiping's expression was solemn. He glanced at Zhuan, who was still trying to break the array. Then, a determined look appeared in his eyes as he said in a low voice, "We must protect Brother Zhua. We must not let him be disturbed in any way. This is our only chance." Lin Long and his wife's eyes flickered as they hesitated. However, looking at Duan Jiping's back, they gritted their teeth and nodded heavily. "Ha! Brother Duan, what a coincidence! To think that we would meet again in the depths of the mausoleum." Suzhou laughed aloud. He took a step forward and crossed the bridge, arriving at the other end. His gaze that was as sharp as a blade landed on Zhuan, who was protected by Duan Jiping and the others. Ziyu, Mo Fengyu, the green-robed elder, and the others followed with smiles. Their faces were full of ridicule. Come to think of it, in their eyes, Duan Jiping and the others were already turtles in a jar, so they didn't care too much. What a coincidence! Duan Jiping laughed dryly, but his eyes were full of vigilance. Brother Duan, you've been here for a long time. Why haven't you entered the main hall? Ziyu chuckled, but her purple eyes were looking at Zhuan's back, who was being protected by Duan Jiping. The door of the main hall has set up an extremely powerful restriction. We are inexperienced and cannot break this restriction. Therefore, we are blocked outside. Duan Jiping said in a low voice. I see that Brother Zhua hasn't said anything. Is he trying to break the array? Ziyu asked jokingly. He overestimates himself. The array on the door is almost at the level of the second firmament of the eternal realm. Who does he think he is? He dares to break the array alone. He's really courting death. Mo Fengyu sneered. Lu Yingying stood behind Mo Liuhua. Her beautiful eyes looked at Zhuan rather speechlessly. This Zhuan was really overestimating himself. What was his cultivation? His array skills were not particularly strong. Wasn't he just looking for trouble by trying to break the array? Ling Yun's vision is really not that good. Her disciple is too arrogant. How can such a guy live for long? Lu Yingying secretly despised him. Old Mo, you'd better watch your words. Duan Jiping said with an unfriendly expression. Mo Fengyu grinned, but his eyes gradually darkened. Duan Jiping, do you really think you're that big of a deal? Do you think that you're invincible just because you're at the peak of the great Qiankun tribulation? You're not the only one with such cultivation here. If we attack, we can destroy you in a matter of minutes. If you don't want to die, get lost now. As he spoke, Mo Fengyu's powerful aura surged out. Immediately, the surroundings were enveloped by his terrifying aura, making the atmosphere very oppressive. Mo Liuhua followed closely behind. Powerful divine power flowed around his body. The aura of the late stage of the great Qiankun tribulation was unmistakable. Peak of the great Qiankun tribulation and late stage of the great Qiankun tribulation. Lin Long and his wife's faces turned rather ugly. They had not expected Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua to be so strong. Hee, this old man has no intention of interfering in your affairs, but now that you're in my way, I have no choice but to attack. The green-robed elder smiled insincerely. He also came to Mo Fengyu's side. A powerful aura that was not weaker than the latter's also surged out. Another peak expert of the great Qiankun tribulation. Duan Jiping's face turned extremely cold. Suzhou and Ziyu didn't move at all. They stood on the side like spectators and watched the confrontation with interest. Brother Zhua is about to break the array of the palace gate. Once it's broken, you can directly enter the main palace. There's no need for you to attack us, Duan Jiping said in a low voice. Mo Fengyu sneered. This trash wants to break the array? Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Get lost. We'll think of a way to break the array. Don't waste our time. Brother Mo is right. Get lost. We won't pursue this matter and let you leave. The green-robed elder said indifferently. Duan Jiping's face darkened completely. Mo Fengyu and the others were threatening him and driving him away just to have one less competitor after entering the main palace. Their words were high-sounding and dignified, As I said, Brother Joie is breaking the array. If we wake him up now, he will definitely suffer a backlash. So, let's wait until he's done. Duan Jiping did not back down. You want us to wait for a trash to break the array? How laughable. In that case, there's nothing to talk about. You can all stay here. Mo Fengyu snorted coldly and summoned his universe world. At the same time, Mo Liuhua and the green-robed elder also summoned their own universe worlds. Clearly, they had long reached an agreement to attack Duan Jiping and the others. Leave Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua to me. You two, deal with that green-robed elder. Chapter 41-41. Boom! Mo Fengyu and Duan Jiping fiercely collided. Terrifying energy ripples erupted like an abyss. The collision of two pinnacle Qingquan Great Tribulation experts produced extremely terrifying energy waves that were enough to tear apart the endless void. However, in the main hall, their energy fluctuations seemed to be blocked by some kind of invisible force. It did not affect this space, let alone the main hall that stood in front of them. Die! While Mo Fengyu and Duan Jiping were entangled, Mo Liuhua saw the opportunity and took out a long saber that was overflowing with light. He slashed at Duan Jiping's weakness. Duan Jiping narrowed his eyes and stepped back with his right foot. His figure nimbly dodged Mo Liuhua's attack. While Duan Jiping was entangled with Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua, Lin Long and his wife were fighting the green-robed elder. Although Lin Long and his wife were only at the late stage of the Qingquan Great Tribulation, they were good at joint attacks because of their tacit cooperation. Therefore, the strength they could display was not much weaker than a pinnacle Qingquan Great Tribulation expert. Therefore, although the green-robed elder's cultivation was stronger than Lin Long and his wife's, he was still unable to take them down in a short time. This team is really unexpected. They really hit it well. Ziyu silently watched this scene. A trace of surprise surged in the depths of her purple eyes. Brother Suzhou, should we join in and help them? Ziyu asked with a smile. Suzhou shook his head. We're not the same kind of people as them. Brother Ziyu, you have to understand that our goal is the things in the main hall. We don't want to get into a big fight over a little argument. There's no need for that at all. Let's do things properly. As he spoke, Suzhou's gaze fell on Zhuowen. His expression became more and more serious. He could feel that Zhuowen seemed to have fallen into some kind of mysterious state. In the process of falling into this state, Zhuowen's method of breaking formations was constantly improving, and the level of his array Dao was also constantly increasing. Can't you see that Zhuowen is actually a divine array master at the first firmament of the eternal level? If he's given enough time, he might really be able to break through the grand formation on the surface of the hall. Suzhou said with a smile. Ziyu scratched her head. She had never dabbled in formations. So even though Suzhou said so, she still couldn't see anything. However, he had no choice but to believe Suzhou's words, because Suzhou's observation ability was extremely sharp, and he'd even dabbled in the knowledge of the Tao of formations in the past. So, he knew much more than Qin Shi. On the Outer Realm Celestial ranking, the person Ziyu admired the most was not the person who was ranked first. He admired the silver-masked Suzhou the most. Although Suzhou's strength was not as great as the top 3 geniuses on the Outer Realm Heavenly ranking, he was the most knowledgeable and the most resourceful genius. Even the top 3 on the Outer World Heavenly ranking were extremely fearful when facing Suzhou. They didn't want to go against him. Then it's actually a good thing for us. Should we stop Mo Fengyu and the others? Ziyu chuckled. Suzhou slowly shook his head and chuckled. Only when Mo Fengyu and the others take action will we have a chance to enter the main palace. All we need to do is to observe the situation from the sidelines. Brother Ziyu, do you believe in me? Ziyu's expression turned serious. He nodded heavily. Brother Suzhou, of course I believe in you. Then you have to completely obey my instructions. Only then can you get a share of the loot in the main palace. If you don't want to obey, I won't force you. What happens to you in the end is none of my business. Suzhou's tone became particularly heavy. Ziyu hesitated. He was silent for a long time before he said, "Brother Suzhou, I'll listen to you from now on." As time passed, the battle between Duan Jiping and Linlong gradually reached its climax. Each of them used their own trump cards. However, whether it was Duan Jiping or Linlong and his wife, they were all at a disadvantage. Especially when Mo Fengyu took out a 7th-rank astral weapon fragment. Duan Jiping was forced to retreat step by step. "Duan Jiping, you can't beat us. Quickly fuck off. Otherwise, you'll perish here today." Mo Liuhua spoke coldly and faintly. Duan Jiping's face was gloomy. He didn't expect Mo Fengyu and his wife to even use an astral weapon fragment. He also had an astral weapon, the complete version of the Dark Chakra Eye. However, this thing couldn't be seen. Once he used it, he would be recognized immediately, and his identity would be exposed once again. At that time, it would be really bad. However, seeing Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua use the power of the astral weapon fragment to beat him up, he knew that if this continued, he would be finished. On the other side, Linlong and his wife were also injured. It wouldn't be long before they were defeated by the green-robed elder. He knew that if he didn't use the Dark Chakra Eye now, they would all die here. Just as Duan Jiping was about to use the Dark Chakra Eye, a blazing Qi energy came from behind him. This Qi energy passed by him and instantly appeared in front of Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua. It turned into a huge jade-colored divine saber and slashed down. Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua were caught off guard and hurriedly used their divine power to block. "Puchi!" The two grunted and spat out mouthfuls of blood as they retreated. At the same time, a jade-colored divine saber also appeared in front of the green-robed elder and repelled him, giving Linlong and Mo Liuhua a chance to catch their breath. "Who is it?" Mo Fengyu and the green-robed elder were both shocked and furious. They couldn't help but look in the direction of the jade-colored divine saber. They saw Zhuowen, who had been sitting cross-legged in front of the hall with his back to them, slowly stand up and turn around. A pair of cold eyes fell on them. "Brother Zhua, you're finally awake." Duan Jiping and the others were wild with joy. Ever since Zhuowen broke the formation, he had been in a state of enlightenment. He had almost entered a state of selflessness and couldn't be awakened at all. Now that Zhuowen had finally woken up, Duan Jiping and the others could finally relax. "Brother Zhua," the Jade Gate god slaying formation on the door, Linlong and his wife asked hesitantly. "The formation is already under my control." Zhuowen smiled faintly. Zhuowen hadn't broken the Jade Gate god slaying formation. Instead, he had completely mastered it according to the principles of the formation. If he wanted to break the formation, he could have done it earlier, but he didn't. Instead, he tried to master it. All of this was to maintain the integrity of the formation. Chapter 41-42. He can actually control the array on the palace gate. This Zhuowen is indeed not simple. Suzhou glanced at Zhuowen and the grand formation behind him, and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. "Little bastard, we'll give you a chance. Undo the array now and scram. That way, you won't have to die here." Mo Fengyu said with a gloomy face. "Oof. Old man, you're quite thoughtful. But who do you think you are? Why do you have to order me around? If you want to enter the main palace, then come." Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Mo Fengyu was flustered and exasperated. In his opinion, this Aunt Zhuowen was too arrogant. How dare he look down on him like this? "You're courting death." Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua rushed over again. They attacked with all their might, wanting to kill Zhuowen with lightning speed. Duan Jiping snorted coldly. Just as he was about to attack, a hand pressed down on his shoulder. It was Zhuowen. Zhuowen said with a smile, "Brother Duan, you guys retreat behind me first. They can't do anything to me now." Hearing this, Duan Jiping hesitated for a moment before retreating as he was told. He had just witnessed the power of the Jade Gate God slaying array and knew that once activated, It was indeed more powerful than an expert at the peak of the Chinquan Great Tribulation. Zhuan's 10 fingers linked together in the air. Then, the Jade Gate God-slaying array behind him suddenly blasted out 2 jade-colored cheese. The 2 jade-colored cheese turned into jade-colored divine sabers that ruthlessly slammed towards Mo Fengyu and Suzhou. Now that the 2 of them were on guard, they were not afraid of the jade-colored divine sabers. They brazenly collided with the jade-colored divine sabers. In a short while, the jade-colored divine sabers were annihilated. Hee, the power of this array is only SOS so. Mo Fengyu's lips curled into a smug smile, but there was contempt in his eyes. Brother Gu, Suzhou, Zio, the main palace is close at hand. Are you still not going to attack? As long as we kill him, we can replace him and take control of the Jade Gate God-slaying array, Mo Fengyu shouted. The green-robed elder, who had been watching the show, revealed a look of interest in his eyes. He thought for a moment, then rushed out and joined forces with Mo Fengyu and Mo Yohua. Let's go over too. Zi was eager to try. Suzhou pulled Ziyu and said softly, "We can go over, but if you want to enter the main hall smoothly, you have to listen to me. Understand?" Zi was somewhat disheartened. "I know. I'll listen to you." "All right, let's go then." Suzhou's expression was calm. He landed not far from Mo Fengyu with Ziyu. After seeing that the 5 of them had joined forces, Zhuan's expression turned slightly serious. He silently sent his voice to Duan Jiping. "Both of you retreat to the middle of the palace gate and listen to my orders to enter the palace gate at any time. Got it?" Duan Jiping and the other 2 nodded heavily. Although they were a little worried about whether the Jade Gate God-slaying array could stop the 5 of them, they could only listen to Zhuan for now. "Attack!" Mo Fengyu roared and attacked first. Violent energy surged out, and the terrifying Qiankuan world descended from the void. Streams of terrifying tribulation energy gathered like a tide, pouring down in all directions. Mo Yohua and the green-robed elder also used all their strength. Surging energy wreaked havoc, and dazzling light shone in all directions. Suzhou and Ziyu both took out their life-divine weapons and followed behind the 3 of them. Zhuo Wen's eyes slowly narrowed, and the corner of his mouth revealed an imperceptible smile. Mo Fengyu and the others simply did not know how strong the Jade Gate God-slaying array was. Zhuo shook his head inwardly. His fingertips danced in the void and completely erupted with the full power of the Jade Gate God-slaying array. The array that had been as calm as water instantly turned berserk in the next moment. Then, streams of dense jade-colored energy swept out from all directions of the array and instantly enveloped Mo Fengyu and the others. Their expressions changed greatly. Only now did they realize that the jade-colored energy had turned into incomparably sharp, jade-colored divine sabers. Clang! Clang! The jade-colored divine sabers were merciless. The moment they appeared, they launched a terrifying, thunderous attack. "Damn it, this brat deliberately showed weakness just now to bait us." Mo Fengyu was unable to restrain his anger. He punched out, and terrifying energy caused the surrounding space to collapse, annihilating the numerous jade-colored divine sabers. But the wave of jade-colored divine sabers was dense and seemingly endless. After he destroyed the jade-colored divine sabers around him, even more jade-colored divine sabers swept over from all directions. The green-robed elder and Mo Yohua's expressions were also extremely ugly. As they resisted the jade-colored divine sabers, they cursed Zhuan for being cunning. "Damn it, we've fallen into a trap," Ziyu said with a heavy expression. Suzhou was already as calm as water. His eyes flashed with a silver-gray light. He looked ahead as if he had seen through something. At this moment, outside the array, Zhuan had completely activated the Jade Gate God-slaying array. He did not stop there. His 10 fingers formed a seal. Within the array, more jade-colored energy poured out. Then countless jade-colored energy condensed into a huge phantom that was dozens of feet tall. This phantom was covered in jade-colored armor that emitted a jade-colored light. It held a huge jade-colored saber in its hands and carried 5 jade-colored divine sabers on its back. It looked like a god that had descended to the mortal world. After summoning this phantom with the Jade Gate god, slaying Array, Zhuowen breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he used the same method to break the array and pushed open the palace door. Creak! There was a crisp sound of the door opening. Zhuowen opened a crack in the huge jade-colored palace door. "Brother Duan, hurry up and go in," Zhuowen urged. Duan Jiping and the other two were wild with joy. They hurriedly entered the main palace through the crack. Zhuowen was the last to enter. When he was about to close the palace door again, his eyelids suddenly twitched. He saw a silver spear emerge from the depths of the void and fly towards his forehead. The spear's timing and position were too precise. Even Zhuowen did not expect it. "Damn it!" Zhuowen cursed in a low voice and immediately retreated a few steps. Taking advantage of the buffer time, he summoned the Taiyu sacred sword and slashed at the spear's shiny silver body. Clang! A crisp clang rang out as the Taiyu sacred sword and the silver spear collided. Terrifying energy ripples swept out in all directions. Zhuowen groaned and couldn't help but take a few steps back. The silver spear was blocked as well, but it still managed to enter the palace. Bang! At this moment, the palace door finally closed completely. Damn it! After the palace door closed, Mo Fengyu and the other 4 finally managed to break free from the jade-colored energy. Their expressions were very unfriendly. "I don't believe it. I'm going to blast open the palace door." Mo Fengyu was so angry that he lost his mind. He rushed towards the palace door, wanting to break through the array with brute force. However, the moment he approached the door, a divine saber that was much larger than him appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye and slashed at him without hesitation. Boom! Boom! Chapter 41-43. Roar! The huge phantom roared. It held the jade-colored divine sabers in both hands and charged towards Mo Fengyu. The 2 sabers were like lightning as they slashed towards Mo Fengyu. Mo Fengyu's expression was ugly. He hurriedly retreated from the range of the Jade Gate god, slaying Array, and the giant shadow was clearly limited by the distance. After chasing for some distance, it returned to the hall door and sat cross-legged in front of the door, squatting silently. It was guarding. "This array is too terrifying. Even if we join forces, I'm afraid we won't be able to break it in a short time." The green-robed elder looked fearfully at the huge phantom sitting cross-legged in front of the palace gate. His face was gloomy. Suzhou and Ziyu were silent. The green-robed elder was right. The power of this array was almost at the second firmament of the eternal realm. Even if the 5 of them joined forces, they wouldn't be able to break the array and enter the main palace in a short time. Inside the palace. Now, the only way is to gather all the cultivators in the mausoleum and gather everyone's strength to attack this array. Perhaps there is still a glimmer of hope. Suzhou suddenly said, "Brother Suzhou is right. This is the only way now." Ziyu hurriedly agreed. Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua's expressions were full of unwillingness. They said in a low voice, "Gongzi Suzhou, we trusted you very much. We've been following you and missed out on many good things in the side palace. Now, we finally found the main palace, but we have to gather that group of people again and let them have a share of the loot. Isn't this a little?" Although the 2 of them didn't say anything to complain about Suzhou, their expressions clearly expressed their dissatisfaction with Suzhou. "You 2 are really interesting. You were the ones who shamelessly followed us. We didn't ask you to come with us. Now that we're trapped outside the main palace, you're blaming Brother Suzhou? Don't you feel ashamed?" Ziyu sneered. Mo Fengyu and Mo Liuhua snorted, but didn't say anything. Ziyu was right. They were the ones who had followed them. Missing out on the treasures in the side palace didn't seem to have anything to do with Suzhou and the others. Moreover, Suzhou and Ziyu's backgrounds weren't low. Although this was their Wushan clan's territory, it was impossible for them to be unhappy with Suzhou over such a small matter. Suzhou's expression was calm as he said, "Everyone, calm down. It's completely meaningless to argue now. Just as I've said, we can only gather most of the cultivators and work together to blast open this grand formation. That's the only feasible method right now. Moreover, Senior Mo, you also have a huge advantage. After all, you have the right to choose a treasure first. Therefore, even if everyone attacks this formation, it won't be bad for your Sorcerer God clan. The haze on Mo Feng Yu and Mo Liuhua's faces gradually eased. Mo Feng Yu said in a deep voice, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go and gather our men." With that, Mo Feng Yu led Mo Liuhua and Lu Yingying out of the main hall. The green-robed elder sighed and left the place, preparing to gather the people in his camp. Soon, only Suzhou and Ziyu were left in front of the main hall. "Brother Suzhou, you deliberately sent them away, right?" Ziyu silently looked at the backs of Mo Feng Yu and the others as she said lightly, "If I didn't send them away, how would we have a chance to enter the main hall?" Suzhou said. Ziyu's eyes lit up. She said rather happily, "Brother Suzhou, do you have a way to break this Jade Gate God-killing formation?" Suzhou shook his head. This made Ziyu purse her lips. She was a bit confused. Suzhou smiled slightly. He flipped his right hand, and a faint silver pattern appeared on his palm. This pattern was like a dragon or snake. It was curved and formed an ancient character for a spear. "Ziyu, you fought with me before. You should know the ability of my divine weapon, the Chaos Space Divine Spear, right?" Suzhou asked indifferently. Ziyu seemed to have thought of something bad. She shrugged. "Of course I know. Your divine weapon is really too annoying. It actually has the ability to freely travel through time. If you didn't rely on this strange ability to constantly make strange moves, I wouldn't have been able to defeat you. I might not have lost," Suzhou said indifferently. "Even if I didn't rely on the Chaos Space Divine Spear's ability, I could still defeat you. It would just be a bit more troublesome." Okay. This matter is already in the past. Can you not mention it?" Ziyu gritted her teeth. Suzhou shook his head. "Then let's not mention it. My Chaos Space Divine Spear is already in the main hall. Now, follow me into the main hall." Ziyu was pleasantly surprised. She couldn't help but give Suzhou a thumbs up. As expected of brother Suzhou, "It seems like you've already schemed against that Zhuoan. Doesn't that mean we don't need to break the formation to directly enter the main hall?" Ziyu was overjoyed. Suzhou didn't speak. Instead, he condensed divine power in his right hand. The spear character in his palm shot out a blazing silver-white light. Silver-white light shot out and formed a ferocious mouth in the void. It swallowed Suzhou and Ziyu in one gulp. Boom! The palace doors were completely shut. Zhuoan barely managed to stabilize himself. He looked gloomily at the silver spear that was stuck in the ground not far from the palace doors. "Brother Zhuo, are you okay?" Duan Jiping and Lin Long hurriedly ran over and asked Zhuoan worriedly. "I'm fine." Zhuoan waved his hand and looked at the silver spear. He could feel a terrifying energy fluctuation from a spear, and this energy fluctuation was very similar to Suzhou's aura. "It seems like we've been schemed against." Zhuoan took a deep breath and said helplessly, Schemed against?" Duan Jiping was a little puzzled. This spear was set up by Suzhou in advance. It was waiting to enter the palace doors at any time. If my guess is right, Suzhou might have some method to use this spear to enter from the outside world. Zhuoan's expression wasn't very good. The feeling of being schemed against wasn't very comfortable. After Zhuoan's reminder, Duan Jiping and the others finally reacted. They figured out the details, and their expressions weren't very good. "Let's just destroy this spear." Duan Jiping's eyes were fierce. He strode over, and a terrifying power poured out. It condensed in his palm, and then he slammed it against the silver spear. However, the moment Duan Jiping's palm landed on the ground, the silver spear buzzed and shot backwards, disappearing on the spot. Chapter 41-44. Haha, Brother Zhuo is too kind. It's all thanks to Brother Zhuo that we can enter the main palace. Speaking of which, we should be the ones thanking you. Just as Zhua finished speaking, a hearty laugh came from above the main palace. The silver long spear emitted a silver-white radiance. Within the dense radiance, the silhouettes of two figures were revealed. When the light faded, a purple-haired, purple-eyed youth and a silver-masked youth were suspended in the air, looking down at Zhua and the others. Good method. It seems that I underestimated the geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard. Zhuan said lightly. Z was a little proud. Kid, don't think that just because you defeated Lai Rong, the Outer Realm leaderboard isn't much. Lai Rong is only ranked 72nd on the Outer Realm leaderboard. To the two of us, he's no different from trash. What's the difference? Duan Jiping and Lin Long stood in front of Zhuan. They looked warily at Su Zhou and Ziyu, who were slowly landing on the ground. The four of you, we have no ill intentions. This main palace is the tomb of that expert after all. Although there are many treasures hidden inside, there should also be terrifying traps. Why don't we work together? Su Zhou was quite sincere. Su Zhou was very sincere. That's right. We don't have any enmity. We're all looking for treasures. Right now, this main palace is still an unknown place to us. It's better for us to work together than to explore on our own. Ziyu laughed mischievously. Duan Jiping and the other two's eyes flickered. They were a little tempted, but their gazes fell on the youth behind them. They still had to see Zhua Wen's opinion on the matter of cooperation. Zhua Wen slowly walked forward and said lightly, I appreciate your intentions. As for the matter of cooperation, let's forget about it. We're not that close. Su Zhou's eyes slowly narrowed. He stopped the impatient Ziyu and said lightly, That's really a pity. Since Brother Zhua doesn't want to cooperate with us, then we won't force ourselves. We'll take our leave now. Su Zhou didn't linger any longer. He led Ziyu into the depths of the main hall. Brother Zhua, what Su Zhou said actually makes some sense. After all, this main hall is still an unknown place, and there might be some hidden dangers. Cooperating with them is actually a wise move. Lin Long and his wife anxiously advised. Zhuan looked at Lin Long and his wife with a spurious smile and said, The two of you seem to really want to work with Su Zhou and the others. Could be that working with them will benefit you in some way. Lin Long and his wife's expressions changed slightly. Lin Long waved his hand and said, How could that be? It's just that we feel that the benefits of working with Su Zhou and the others outweigh the disadvantages. Since Brother Zhua doesn't agree, we naturally won't have any objections. Since there are no objections, that's for the best. We should properly explore this main palace. I hope the things inside won't disappoint us. Zhuan smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Instead, he led the way into the depths of the main palace. Lin Long and his wife followed closely behind. Duan Jiping was at the back. His gaze fell on Lin Long and his wife. He couldn't help but slowly narrow his eyes. The area of the main hall was extremely large. The floor in the center of the hall was made of transparent crystal stones. When they stepped on the floor, they could clearly see their own reflections. What was even more strange was that there wasn't just one reflection on the transparent floor, but many. When you look down at the floor, you can see as if there are many of you looking back at you. At the end of the hall, there were bronze doors that looked exactly the same. The bronze doors were about 2 people tall and half a meter wide. There were many complicated patterns on the surface that flickered with a mysterious light. Zhuan noticed that several bronze doors in the east had been violently broken. Clearly, Su Zhou and Ziyu had already started to explore what treasures were behind the bronze doors. How unlucky. It's actually a mechanism again. An extremely terrifying energy fluctuation came from a broken bronze door in the east. Then, 2 figures came out in a rather sorry state. It was Su Zhou and Ziyu. Ziyu was cursing, and her expression wasn't very good. The two of them naturally saw Zhuan's group of 4, but they didn't go up to greet them. Instead, they quickly rushed to another bronze door, broke it open with brute force, and entered to explore again. Let's go explore too. It won't be good if those 2 beat us to it. Lin Long and his wife said eagerly. How about this? The 4 of us together obviously won't be very efficient. Let's split into 2 groups and explore the bronze doors separately. Zhuowen said with a smile. Lin Long and his wife were startled. Their faces were slightly stiff. Brother Zhuo's suggestion is not bad. Lin Long, you and your wife will form a group. Brother Zhuo and I will form a group. Do you have any objections? Duan Jiping suddenly said. Lin Long and his wife looked at each other and smiled. Of course we have no objections. Then let's begin. After Duan Jiping finished speaking, Lin Long and his wife went to the bronze door in the north. Zhuowen and Duan Jiping went to the bronze door in the west. However, not long after Zhuowen and Duan Jiping left, Lin Long and his wife, who were supposed to go to the bronze door in the north, returned to the center. In the east, Su Zhou and Ziyu walked out of the broken bronze door and met up with Lin Long and his wife. Lord Su Zhou, I'm afraid that the two of us have already been suspected. Lin Long respectfully cupped his hands towards Su Zhou. Lin Long, you're too eager for instant success. That's why you gave yourself away. This is a bit disappointing. Su Zhou said coldly. Lin Long and his wife hurriedly knelt on the ground and said in a cold sweat, We were too anxious. Lord Su Zhou, please forgive us. Ziyu was surprised at first, but then her face was full of admiration. This Su Zhou was really full of tricks. Even the two people beside Zhuowen were bribed by him. Forget it. We've already entered the main hall anyway. According to the information you provided, Zhuowen seems to have obtained the memories of an important subordinate of that expert. They probably know which of the many bronze doors here is the real one. The treasure ground, Su Zhou said indifferently. Since that's the case, why don't we just join forces and capture the two of them? Then we can force out the specific location, right? There's no need to beat around the bush. Ziyu said unhappily. Su Zhou shook his head. Whether it's Zhuowen or Duan Jiping, both of them aren't simple. I can feel that if we fight them head-on, even if we win, it might be a Pyrrhic victory. We might even fail miserably. Ziyu looked at Su Zhou in surprise. She didn't expect Su Zhou to have such a high opinion of Zhuowen. This wasn't Su Zhou's style. She remembered that the only people in the younger generation that Su Zhou was so afraid of were the three perverts in the top 3 of the Outer Realm leaderboard. Chapter 41-45. Brother Ziyu, the 100 domains outside the realm are vast and full of talents. Who knows how many peerless geniuses are hidden among them? Although the Outer Realm Celestial List is an authoritative list, not everyone is willing to fight for it. This Zhuowen was able to reach here. Whether it is his temperament or strength, he is definitely the best. Don't be careless, Su Zhou said in a low voice. Ziyu pursed his lips, but didn't refute. Although he didn't like Su Zhou's preaching, he knew that even if he refuted, he couldn't win against Su Zhou. Darren, that Zhuowen might know the specific map of the main palace. If we don't keep an eye on them, I'm afraid that they will enter the treasure land first and take away the treasures here. Lin Long quickly suggested. I have my own judgment on this matter. I want them to find the treasure land before us because they are destined to be my explorers. A faint smile appeared on Su Zhou's lips. He then led the 3 of them towards the bronze door in the west. However, the moment the 4 of them left, Su Zhou waved his sleeve and a strange energy wave enveloped them. The space around them became transparent and distorted. The traces and auras of the 4 of them seemed to have disappeared into thin air. At the end of the west stood a mysterious bronze door. When Zhuowen and Duan Jiping arrived, they weren't in a hurry to find the bronze door. Instead, they looked at each other. Brother Duan, are you sure you could trust those two? Zhuowen asked with an ugly expression. Duan Jiping looked rather embarrassed. I don't know much about their specific origins. I only know that they are itinerant cultivators and their backgrounds are quite clean. Do you still think their backgrounds are clean now? Zhuowen shook his head. Duan Jiping was a little embarrassed. He then said with a serious expression, thinking about it, they might have colluded with Su Zhou and the others. Otherwise, they wouldn't have strongly requested to cooperate with Su Zhou and the others at the palace door. Zhuowen nodded and said in a low voice, If the memory I obtained is correct, the true burial place of the tomb's owner should be in one of these bronze doors. However, I don't know the specifics. I only know that it should be in the west region. Furthermore, other than the true burial ground of that expert, there are many good things behind some of the bronze doors. As the saying goes, what is false is true, and what is true is false. As long as we can distinguish the real from the fake, we will naturally be able to find the real burial ground. As he spoke, Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng began to seriously search through the bronze doors. The two of them blasted open one bronze door after another and began a carpet search. However, what they didn't notice was that in a hidden space not far away, there were 4 pairs of eyes silently watching their every move. At the same time, outside the main hall, the green-robed elder, Mo Fengyu, and the others had already gathered the people of their 2 camps outside the main hall. The majestic procession sat in the open space outside the palace gate, but it did not seem crowded at all. What's wrong with Suzhou and Ziyu? Why is it so slow? Mo Fengyu said with an ugly expression. The green-robed old man was also puzzled. They had already gathered the team and waited here for Suzhou and the others for a while. However, Suzhou and Ziyu seemed to have evaporated into thin air and didn't appear. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, several figures came from the other end of the bridge. After crossing the bridge, they landed on the open space. Mo Fengyu and the others looked over and saw that the person leading them was a slightly tanned, strong youth with 2 sabers on his back. The 10th on the Beyond Realm leaderboard, Fu Di. Everyone recognized the identity of this strong youth. At the same time, the people behind Fu Di were also geniuses on the Beyond Realm leaderboard. The 15th on the Beyond Realm leaderboard, Shun Anshin, the 20th on the Beyond Realm leaderboard, and the pale-faced Lai Rong, who was being supported by the black-robed elder. In addition, on the other side of the bridge, there was a large number of teams following Fu Di and coming along the bridge. They were the teams of Suzhou and Ziyu. Mo Fengyu and the green-robed elder looked at each other. Their expressions eased a little, and they went forward to meet them. Little friend Fu Di, where are Suzhou and Ziyu? Why don't I see them? Mo Fengyu asked Fu Di with a smile. I should be asking you about Brother Suzhou and Brother Ziyu's whereabouts. Why are you asking about me instead? I remember that you were following behind them all this time. Fu Di's voice was very loud, like a thunderclap. He looked doubtfully at Mo Fengyu and the green-robed elder. What? Mo Fengyu and the green-robed elder were shocked. Even Fu Di had not seen Suzhou and Ziyu. Then where had they gone? Could it be that they had also entered the main hall? At this moment, Mo Fengyu and the green-robed elder thought of this possibility at the same time. Although they did not know how Suzhou and Ziyu had entered, they could not have given up on the main hall and left. Their whereabouts were unknown, so the only explanation was that they had entered the main hall. Damn it, Suzhou is so scheming. He was the one who suggested gathering everyone to attack the formation. I thought he was being kind, but it turned out that he just wanted to send us away so that they could enter the main hall without anyone knowing. Mo Fengyu was flustered and exasperated. He said, although Fu Di did not know the ins and outs, he knew from Mo Fengyu's words that Suzhou and Ziyu had already entered the main hall. When Mo Fengyu and the green-robed elder told him everything that had happened, Fu Di finally understood. That bastard Zhuowen also entered the main hall. Lai Rong had also heard Mo Fengyu and the others' narration and knew that Zhuowen had already entered the main hall. He immediately felt very unhappy. It really is Brother Suzhou's style. However, we can't let them monopolize the treasures in the main hall. There are so many of us. We should get a share. Although Suzhou and Ziyu are not here, I will preside over it for now, Fu Di said in a low voice. Mo Fengyu and the green-robed elder had no objections to Fu Di's words. They had originally planned to combine everyone's strength and forcibly blast open the Jade Gate God slaying formation. Although Suzhou and Ziyu had already slipped away, they had no other way to bypass the formation and could only continue using this method. Everyone charge. As long as we can break this formation, we can take all the treasures in the main hall. Next, Mo Fengyu shouted and led the Witchcraft God Clan's team to charge towards the huge shadow in front of the palace gate. Fu Di and the green-robed elder were naturally unwilling to fall behind. They also shouted, and terrifying energy ripples spread through the entire space like waves. Roar! The jade-colored shadow that had been sitting cross-legged in front of the palace gate roared and stood up. The huge jade-colored sabers in its hands slashed out. Chapter 41-46. Looks like someone's already attacking the Jade Gate, God's slaying array. Zhuowen and Duan Jiping had just emerged from a bronze door when they immediately heard the intense tremors in the main hall. Without a doubt, they knew that Mo Fengyu and the others had already gathered many people to attack the Jade Gate God's slaying array. Keep searching. We don't have much time left. Zhuowen was stern as he and Duan Jiping continued to search through the bronze doors in the west. Around half an hour later, when Zhuowen and Duan Jiping had casually blasted open a bronze door, they discovered to their surprise that there was a silver door behind the bronze door. The sturdiness of this silver door is much higher than the bronze door. Duan Jiping stroked the surface of the silver door as his face suddenly became rather grim. "Blast it open and let's see," Zhuowen said sternly. Duan Jiping nodded and then bellowed out. He clenched his right hand into a fist, and surging energy condensed in his right fist as he punched the surface of the silver door. With a thump, the silver door violently shook, and then countless cracks appeared on its surface. In the end, it completely shattered. After the silver door shattered, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that behind the silver door, there was actually another door that was shining with a golden light. This! Duan Jiping was stunned. Zhuowen suddenly revealed a look of ecstasy. He said rather excitedly, "Brother Duan, this should be the correct place that leads to the burial ground. After bronze is silver, and after silver is gold. If I'm not wrong, there should be a golden door behind the golden door. A sturdy platinum door. This is exactly the same as the information I obtained in the divine medicinal garden." Duan Jiping was also affected by Zhuowen's excitement. He also became wild with joy. He chuckled and became even more motivated. He erupted with great power and began to blast open the golden door. Just as Zhuowen had said, after the golden door was shattered, it was replaced by a platinum door that shone with a brilliant silver light. After Duan Jiping expended a lot of effort, he finally blasted open the platinum door. What appeared before them was a deep tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, there was a faint white light, as if I was watching them. "Go!" Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a bright light. The two of them quickly rushed forward along the tunnel. However, what they didn't notice was that not long after they entered the passageway, the space at the entrance of the bronze door slightly distorted. They found it. A low voice sounded. "Don't expose yourself yet. Let's continue to follow them. These two explorers are still useful. We can't alert them now." Another calm voice sounded. The distorted space at the bronze door gradually calmed down, and the sound also gradually quieted down. Not long after, Zhuowen and Duan Jiping walked out of the tunnel. Intense white light pounced on them, causing them to involuntarily close their eyes. After they got used to it, they discovered that they were in a rather spacious inner hall. The entire inner hall was made of precious jade, and the chaotic energy inside was extremely dense. In the middle of the inner hall, there was a jade coffin suspended in midair. On both sides of the jade coffin, there were two balls of light. As the surface of the balls of light was filled with the power to block divine sense, Zhuowen and Duan Jiping couldn't find out what was inside the balls of light. However, the two of them didn't even need to think to know that there must be a treasure inside the balls of light. And the treasure of a cosmic Dharma powerhouse naturally couldn't be ordinary. Zhuowen and Duan Jiping looked at each other and gave each other a look. The two of them rushed out at the same time, rushing towards the balls of light on both sides of the coffin. The moment the two of them attacked at the same time, in a remote area of the inner hall, there was a distortion of space. Then, four figures split into two groups and intercepted Zhuowen and Duan Jiping. Zhuo Wen's gaze narrowed slightly as he took out a formation disc and tossed it out. Instantly, numerous formation markings appeared like an iron wall that obstructed the two figures. After this delay, Zhuo had already appeared beside the ball of light on the left. With a wave of his sleeve, he collected the ball of light. Duan Jiping's movements were also extremely fast. He took the ball of light on the left first. Bang! The two figures rushing towards Duan Jiping fiercely attacked him. Suddenly, the space exploded. Duan Jiping and the two figures couldn't help but retreat more than 10 steps. It really is you. Linlong, I still betrayed us. Duan Jiping looked at the two figures who had been repelled. His eyes were gloomy and his expression was ugly. The two figures were Linlong and his wife. They sneered at Duan Jiping, who had an ugly expression. On the other side, the two figures were Ziyu and Suzhou. After they dealt with the restriction that Zhuowen had set up, Zhuowen had already retreated. Ziyu and Suzhou's expressions were ugly. They didn't think that their whereabouts would be exposed. Otherwise, Zhuowen and Duan Jiping wouldn't have been able to take out the two balls of light before them. How scheming. Brother Zhuo, I'm getting more and more interested in you. Suzhou smiled faintly. He landed beside the floating coffin and continued. You took away the two balls of light. Then, this coffin will belong to us. Suzhou, aren't you going a little overboard? This is the correct path. We discovered it, and you want to steal the fruits of our labor? Zhuowen said in a low voice. Everyone knew that the most precious thing in the inner hall was actually this coffin. This coffin was suspected to be the coffin of a Dharma adept. Everyone knew how precious the things inside were. I think that you'd better not act rashly. Now, whether it's in terms of numbers or strength, you're no match for us. The wisest thing for you to do now is to leave. Suzhou smiled faintly. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Just as the two sides were confronting each other, there was the sound of rushing wind. Then, they discovered that several figures had appeared at the entrance of the inner hall and were looking at them in surprise. Then, they saw the coffin floating in the air. They instantly understood. They immediately took out their communication jade talismans and sent out messages. However, the moment they sent out their communication jade talismans, a silver spear ghostly appeared behind them and pierced their foreheads, killing them. Not good. Mo Feng Yu and the others have already entered, and they've already sent out the message. A large number of their people will be here soon. Ziyu landed on a few corpses and checked their communication jade talismans. Her expression didn't look too good after the message was sent out. Don't waste time with them. Leave immediately. Suzhou made a prompt decision. He planned to move the jade coffin away and leave. However, a figure flashed over and appeared in front of Suzhou. Brother Suzhou, it's not that easy for you to take away this coffin, Zhuowen said to Suzhou with a smile. Chapter 41-47. Boom, boom, boom. Suzhou's palm blasted out, and the entire space resounded with the sound of thunder. A terrifying pressure swept over like a wave. Zhuowen was shocked. Suzhou was indeed very strong. Although his cultivation was only at the peak of the ancient star transformation, his strength was much stronger than Lai Rong's. Zhuowen was not afraid. His right palm formed a fist and fiercely punched out. When the fist and palm collided, endless waves of air spread out from between the two and wreaked havoc in all directions. The two of them could not help but retreat dozens of steps. What? Brother Suzhou is actually on par with him? Ziyu was completely shocked when she saw this scene. Suzhou was a genius ranked 4th on the Outer Realm Heaven list. He was extremely strong and was an existence that ordinary universe tribulation experts were extremely wary of. In his opinion, Zhuowen fighting Suzhou head-on was simply a mantis trying to stop a chariot. He was just overestimating himself. However, he never imagined that not only had Zhuowen blocked Suzhou's attack, Zhuowen had even caused Suzhou to be unable to gain the upper hand. Didn't this mean that Zhuowen's true strength might even surpass him? Suzhou frowned slightly. He looked at Zhuowen with a trace of surprise. Although he had thought highly of Zhuowen, It seemed that he had still underestimated this person. On the other hand, Zhuan raised his eyebrows. He was rather moved that Su Zhou was able to fight him equally. Others might not know, but he was well aware of the extent of his strength after cultivating the primordial technique. Brother Ziyu, take the coffin and leave this place first. I'll hold this person back first. Su Zhou shouted at Zhuan. He took a step forward, took out his natal lone star, and rushed towards Zhuan. What shocked Zhuan was that Su Zhou had a total of 7 natal lone stars. Moreover, they were 7 stars of different colors. The 7 stars of different colors hovered in the void behind Su Zhou. They were arranged according to the Big Dipper, forming an extremely powerful formation. Zhuan didn't dare to be careless. This Su Zhou was worthy of being called a top genius. His natal star was also extraordinary, far surpassing ordinary ancient stars. Ziyu's eyes flickered. She nodded and rushed towards the jade coffin. Don't even think about it. Duan Jiping saw that Ziyu wanted to take away the jade coffin and shouted, wanting to stop Ziyu. Brother Duan, your opponent is the 2 of us. Just as Duan Jiping was about to attack, Lin Long and his wife joined forces to block Duan Jiping's path. Lin Long, I've always treated you with sincerity, but you've always had ulterior motives. How shameless! Duan Jiping was trembling with anger. A terrifying aura burst out of him as he summoned his Qian Kuan world without hesitation and threw a punch at the couple. Brother Duan, don't blame us for this. After all, compared to you, whether it's Ziyu or Su Zhou, their background are much bigger. We can't afford to offend them, so I chose them. Lin Long and his wife's faces were gloomy. They summoned their Qian Kuan worlds as well. The power of calamity spread out and turned into an ocean that swept out and rushed towards Duan Jiping. Boom! When the 2 sides collided, the momentum that erupted was extremely terrifying. Even though the inner palace was sturdy and solid, it was still shaken by the aftermath of the collision. Traces of cracks even began to appear on the surface of the inner palace. While Duan Jiping and Lin Long and his wife were fighting, Zhuan and Su Zhou were also fighting fiercely on the other side of the inner hall. After Su Zhou brought out the lone star of the Big Dipper formation, Zhuan also brought out his star domain. Stars floated around Zhuan. With him as the center, they began to rotate rapidly in an elliptical orbit. Zhuan purposely separated a portion of his stars and charged towards Ziyu. Terrifying energy surged forth like a tide. Ziyu's purple eyes flickered with coldness. He also summoned his natal star and blasted it toward Zhuan's. Ziyu had a total of 6 natal stars that emitted a strange purple color. Each purple star was connected by a purple rainbow. From afar, it looked like a purple string of beads. Ziyu's right hand formed a seal. The 6 stars connected by the rainbow whizzed out like a whip. They actually blasted away all the stars that Zhuan had sent flying. However, there were a lot of stars that Zhuan was afraid of. Ziyu blasted open a part of them, but another part immediately filled in and continued to entangle Ziyu. She couldn't leave the inner hall for a while. You're really arrogant. You actually diverted your attention to care about others when you're fighting me. Su Zhou's gaze was cold. The 7 stars of the Big Dipper were like a hot knife through butter. They instantly broke through Zhuan's astral domain and went straight for Zhuan. At the same time, Su Zhou's right hand clenched into the air. A silver spear appeared in his hand. Then he suddenly shot it at Zhuan. The moment the silver spear shot out, the space around it suddenly distorted. Then the silver spear disappeared into thin air. Zhuan's expression changed slightly. He waved his right hand, and a star appeared a few meters away from him like a loyal bodyguard. He knew very well that the silver spear in Su Zhou's hand was extremely extraordinary. It was a divine weapon that could travel through time and space at will. Whoosh! A strong sound of the wind being torn apart resounded from behind Zhuan, and then he noticed to his shock that a silver spear had flashed out from the distorted space behind him, and it didn't slow down at all as it pointed directly at the center of his back. Bang! However, Zhuan's reaction was fast enough. He immediately controlled the star that he had prepared to block behind him. The spear and the star collided fiercely. In front of the huge star, the spear was as small as an embroidery needle. However, this needle-like spear actually exploded with an extremely shocking power, shattering the huge star in one fell swoop. The silver spear emitted a sacred silver light. It was like a rainbow piercing through the sun as it continued to shoot toward Zhuowen. However, with the interception of that star, Zhuowen once again controlled many stars to form an extremely tight defense in front of him. But was the impact of the silver spear that caused his mind to be slightly disturbed. The other stars that were entangled with Zhu revealed an opening. Zhu naturally saw this flaw. He waved his right hand in the air. The purple stars were like a purple whip that suddenly flew out. It immediately pushed back many of the stars that were in the flaw. He turned into a purple shadow and charged forward. He quickly rushed towards the only passageway in the inner palace. Chapter 41-49. Then where's the real tomb? Duan Jiping was even more confused. Zhuowen smiled and said, when the real is fake, the fake is also real. Sometimes, the distance between the real and the fake is not so far apart, and the location of the real tomb is hidden in this inner palace. Duan Jiping was stunned and immediately showed an incredulous expression. He thought that the flowing flame heart was too big to put the real and fake tombs in the same place. However, after thinking about it, he felt relieved. The most dangerous place was the safest place. When the fake tomb was discovered, even if the discoverers knew that the tomb was fake, they would naturally ignore this place completely. It was impossible for them to think that there would be a real tomb in the fake tomb. It could be said that hiding the real tomb in the fake tomb was naturally the safest and most unexpected place. Zhuowen ignored Duan Jiping's shock and said with a faint smile, Brother Duan, take out the thing in the light ball that you snatched. Duan Jiping was stunned and took out a jade pendant without hesitation. The jade pendant was emerald green in color and looked like a magatama. The surface of the jade was dotted with little red patterns and emitted a mysterious feeling. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He also took out a jade pendant from his body. It was also in the shape of a magatama and complemented Duan Jiping's magatama. Zhuowen took Duan Jiping's magatama and combined it with his, forming a perfect circular jade pendant. There are only two strange jade pendants hidden in the balls of light on both sides of the coffin. Duan Jiping frowned slightly. In order to snatch these two light balls, he and Zhuowen had put in a lot of effort. However, they did not expect that there were only two jade pendants without much use. This made Duan Jiping quite disappointed. Brother Duan, this circular jade pendant is not only not useless, but also very useful. Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Brother Zhuo, what do you mean? Duan Jiping asked doubtfully. Because this jade pendant is the key to opening the real tomb. As long as I have this jade pendant, I have the key to opening the real tomb. Zhuowen smiled and walked to the center of the inner hall. He formed a seal with his hands, and a spatial distortion appeared in the center of the inner hall. Then, under Duan Jiping's astonished gaze, a pure white altar half the height of a person appeared in front of him. On the front of the altar, there was a circular groove. Upon closer inspection, the groove, in terms of size and depth, was exactly the same as the circular jade pendant in Zhuowen's hand. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with excitement. It seemed that Bai Tiangong's memories were correct. All the mysteries were in this inner hall. This is the key to the real tomb. Duan Jiping finally reacted. His eyes were filled with excitement. Zhuowen nodded and placed the round jade pendant into the groove. An ear-piercing crackling sound could be heard from the depths of the altar. Then, the altar, which was half the height of a person, sank back into the ground. Then, in the center of the inner hall, there was a circular door. It slowly opened to both sides, revealing a neat circular pit. The pit was pitch black. It was impossible to see what was at the bottom of the pit. However, the extremely dense primal chaos energy gushing out from the depths of the deep pit indicated that this deep pit was definitely an extraordinary place. "Brother Duan, let's go in." Zhuan's eyes shone brightly. He said to Duan Jiping and jumped down. Duan Jiping followed closely behind. His eyes were filled with excitement. This was the real tomb. The most precious thing in the entire main hall was at the bottom of this pit. If they could get it, they would really make a fortune. Not long after Zhuan and Duan Jiping entered the pit, the ground above the pit closed again. At the same time, the hall surrounded by bronze doors was not so peaceful. Z was already surrounded by everyone. She was in a dilemma, and her face was very ugly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, 3 streaks of light rushed into the encirclement and landed beside Ziyu. The streaks of light faded. It was Suzhou, Linlong, and his wife. "Gongzi Suzhou, you came at the right time. I think you should have obtained the coffin of that Dharma plane expert. You should also know that good things need to be shared with everyone. It won't be good if you keep it to yourself." Mo Fengyou's expression changed slightly when he saw Suzhou and the other two. He was not afraid and was still fearless. They had the advantage in numbers, and their strength was not simple. He did not think that Suzhou could escape from their hands. "Everyone, I think you've misunderstood. That voice just now. I'm sure all of you have heard it clearly. That was Zhuan's voice. Why did he suddenly shout like that? Have you not thought about it? This is a thief crying thief. The real treasure has already been taken by that kid. He shouted those words just to attract your attention and divert the trouble away from you. I think you're all smart people. You won't fall for that kid's trick, right?" Suzhou said lightly. Once these words were spoken, the crowd, who had been confident of victory, suddenly burst into an uproar. Obviously, Suzhou's words had awakened some people. They felt that the former's words were not without reason. After all, in their opinion, Zhuan's shout was not necessarily trustworthy. It might have been just to mislead them. "Where's Zhuan?" the green-robed elder asked with a frown. "He's already escaped. He's very cunning. He took advantage of the moment when all of you were focused on Brother Zio to secretly leave this hall. I think what everyone should do now is not to confront us and waste time, but to focus on finding Zhuan," Suzhou said somewhat exasperatedly. "You should look for Zhuan and snatch his coffin." Seeing Suzhou like this, the crowd believed him a little more. "Brother Suzhou, Brother Zio, it's not that we don't believe you. What you said is reasonable, but we can't rule out the possibility that you're also suspicious. How about this? Didn't that Zhuan say that the coffin is on Brother Zio? As long as Brother Zio magnanimously opens the storage artifact for us to take a look and prove his innocence, we'll choose to believe you. Then we'll go find that Zhuan to settle the score," Mo Fengyu said doubtfully. His words instantly gained the crowd's support. After all, Zio's hesitation earlier was indeed very suspicious in their eyes. Chapter 4150. Okay, as long as you swear to the heavenly Tao that you won't touch Brother Ziyu's divine storage item, then he can open it for you to inspect. What made Ziyu's expression change was that Suzhou actually agreed without blushing or panting. "Brother Ziyu, don't worry. I only have a countermeasure. Just open the divine storage item." Just as Ziyu was at a loss, Suzhou's voice faintly sounded in his mind. Although Ziyu still had some doubts, he still chose to believe in Suzhou. He snorted coldly and took out a purple jade bracelet. He formed a seal and opened the restriction on the purple jade bracelet. This purple jade bracelet was Ziyu's divine storage item. When the restriction on the surface was removed, strands of consciousness immediately poured into Ziyu's storage god artifact like the tide. They began to investigate the things inside. Ziyu's expression was not very good. The divine storage item contained some of his secrets. Now that he had opened it so openly for others to investigate, he felt very embarrassed. But he had to do this. Otherwise, everyone would be angry and his life would be in danger. There isn't any coffin here. Suzhou Gongzi seems to be right. Maybe we were really deceived by Zhuan. The coffin should be on Zhuan. Numerous exclaims of surprise resounded, while everyone in the surroundings came to a sudden understanding, and they completely believed Suzhou's words. On the other hand, Mo Fayu, the green-robed elder, and some of the most powerful people still unwillingly scanned the inside of the purple jade bracelet with their spiritual senses. They scanned inside and out, not letting go of a single spot. A trace of surprise flashed through Ziyu's eyes. He couldn't help but look at the calm Suzhou not far away and quickly returned to normal. He put away the purple jade bracelet and sneered. "Everyone, you've seen enough. Now you should believe us." Faced with Ziyu's questioning, the surrounding people smiled awkwardly. It was rare that they didn't dare to refute. Ziyu's background wasn't low. If it weren't for the temptation of wealth, they really didn't want to offend Ziyu. "Zio Gongzi, we've offended you. It seems that Suzhou Gongzi is right. The real coffin isn't on you, but on Zhuowen." Mo Fayu said sincerely. "Oomph. Preposterous. Does Zhuowen really think that we're pushovers? He actually dared to trick us. This time we'll make him suffer." The green-robed elder was flustered and exasperated. The surrounding crowd was even more agitated, and they all began to curse Zhuowen. "Everyone, the most important thing for us to do now is to find Zhuowen, and not to curse here. Zhuowen's tea. We can definitely find him." Zhou quickly comforted them. After what happened just now, Suzhou's words carried a lot more weight, and everyone quieted down. Under Mo Fengyu, the green-robed elder, and Suzhou's orders, they began to search through the various regions of the main hall, not missing a single place. Suzhou and Ziyu formed a small group with Lin Long and his wife, and spread out to search the other parts of the main hall. "Brother Suzhou, I remember that the coffin has always been in my storage artifact." "How?" Ziyu saw that there was no one around and asked the question in her heart. Suzhou smiled faintly. "At the instant you opened your storage artifact, my life artifact entered your storage artifact without anyone noticing. Moreover, it took the coffin with it." Ziyu suddenly understood. Suzhou's divine spear could fly through space and time. It could indeed hide the coffin in the turbulence of space and time. Suzhou waved his sleeve, and the space in his right hand started to distort, and then a silver spear appeared in the distorted space. Behind the silver spear, a coffin slowly appeared. Suzhou immediately put the coffin into his storage artifact and said to Ziyu and Lin Long, "We have to find a place to leave this place as soon as possible and open the coffin to check your treasures. Once Zhuowen is found, my lie will be exposed. At that time, we won't be able to leave even if we want to." Ziyu and Lin Long looked fervently at the coffin that Suzhou put away. Then they nodded heavily. They naturally knew what was at stake. They were in the same boat now. They were bound together for good or ill. So they had to work together to leave this place. As for the distribution of land, that would naturally be decided after they left. Darkness. It was endless darkness. Zhuowen only felt that he was constantly falling. He was falling and sinking in the darkness. After he and Duan Jiping entered the deep pit, they had been falling at a uniform speed. And the darkness in the deep pit was not ordinary darkness. In the darkness, not only was his vision pitch black, but even his spiritual sense couldn't detect anything at all. What shocked him even more was that he couldn't even make a sound. He just fell with the flow, as if there was no end. In this silent fall, Zhuowen couldn't feel the passage of time at all. In other words, in this kind of environment, time had become meaningless. The only thing that was meaningful was the distance of the falling space. And when would one finally reach the bottom and stop this kind of endless falling? Landing in the air. Discomfort. After an unknown amount of time, Zhuowen found that the discomfort of being suspended in the air had gradually disappeared, and his feet had touched the ground. In front of him, a ray of light shot in. It became brighter and brighter, and finally dispelled the surrounding darkness. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes and looked ahead. He found that he was in a vast wilderness. In the wilderness, a dim yellow hill stood tall. Because it had been eroded by the wind and rain all year round, it was riddled with holes. Just like the wilderness, it was like an old man in his twilight years was curled up. In the center of the wilderness, between heaven and earth, there was a huge light figure that seemed to connect the heavens and the earth. It stood there as if it was looking down on this barren land. Zhuowen knew that the light that dispelled the darkness was emitted from this light figure. He could feel that the terrifying aura emitted by this light figure was like a tide. It made Zhuowen involuntarily have the urge to kneel down and worship it. In particular, the ancient and vicissitudes of life emitted by the light figure made him have the illusion that this was a god, and he should respect and love it. This is, Zhuowen muttered to himself. He thought of an answer in his heart. It's the cosmic Dharma idol of that expert. Sure enough, although he has fallen, his cosmic Dharma idol hasn't dissipated. At this time, an extremely excited voice sounded behind Zhuowen. Then he saw Duan Jiping come to his side. He looked excitedly at the huge light figure that stood between heaven and earth. Is this the cosmic Dharma idol? Zhuowen looked at the light figure silently. He pursed his lips and whispered to himself, "Brother Zhuo, let's go and take a look." Chapter 41:51. Is this the cosmic Laksana? When Zhuowen and Duan Jiping stopped on a hill about a few hundred feet away from the light figure, Zhuowen looked at the light figure silently and could not help but feel a little surprised. The light figure in front of them was huge. From its appearance, it was obvious that it was a shadow similar to a human. It did not have any facial features and looked very blurry. However, the moment one stared at the light figure, one could feel the lofty and distant feeling transmitted by the light figure. It was as if what one was looking at was not just a huge light figure, but a vast and boundless universe. In front of this Dharma idol, one would naturally feel insignificant and humble in his heart. Moreover, Zhuowen could sense that the figure of light before him was not material, but illusory. It was a huge statue formed from powerful laws. It was dignified, awe-inspiring, and extraordinary. The so-called Dharma Laksana is naturally the combination of Dharma and Laksana. Only after peering into the most profound laws of the universe and thoroughly comprehending them can one condense the Dharma into Laksana with one's own strength. Hence, it is called Dharma Laksana. Duan Jiping muttered to himself. There was a hint of enlightenment in his eyes. Although it was not deep, he had a deeper understanding of the cosmic Laksana. In the past, he had been unable to condense the cosmic Laksana because he did not know where to start and did not understand the true meaning of Dharma Laksana. But now, after observing a real cosmic Laksana at close range, he vaguely grasped something. Zhuowen did not disturb Duan Jiping. His gaze crossed the hills and fell on the place where the light figure was. There was a large basin, and the cosmic Laksana stood at the center of the basin. In fact, Zhuowen could even faintly see the outline of a coffin through the boundless light. Zhuowen glanced at Duan Jiping beside him. He did not go alone, but waited silently. At the same time, while waiting for Duan Jiping, Zhuowen was also looking at the cosmic Laksana. Perhaps because Lu Yinhua had fallen, the cosmic Laksana seemed extremely illusory, as if it would collapse at any time. Although Zhuowen only had the ancient star transformation, it was beneficial for him to observe the cosmic Laksana at close range. It might be helpful for him to condense the cosmic Laksana in the future. After about 30 minutes, Duan Jiping slowly opened his eyes and said in a deep voice, "This cosmic Laksana should have been severely damaged." The many Dharma Laksana flowing in it seemed somewhat chaotic and irregular. "Brother Zhuo, this cosmic Laksana is very important to me. Can you get to me? As for the other things, I don't want them all." At this point, Duan Jiping of the cosmic Laksana and looked at Zhuowen with anticipation. The universal law doesn't have much use for the current me. Brother Duan, you can take it. As for the other things, let's split them 50-50. After all, it was you who provided me with the information that allowed me to come to this tomb. One should never forget their roots. Zhuowen smiled slightly. He didn't want to take advantage of Duan Jiping. If it weren't for Duan Jiping, he might not have known that there was a tomb here. Duan Jiping was stunned, but then he said seriously, "Brother Zhua, what are you talking about? This cosmic Laksana is already extremely precious. It's comparable to the other treasures left behind by Lu Yinhua. If I split it with you, wouldn't that be too? Isn't that too much?" However, Zhuowen was a person who wouldn't change his mind easily. Therefore, although Duan Jiping felt a little guilty, he finally agreed to Zhuowen's suggestion. "Let's go." The owner of this cosmic Laksana has fallen and become an ownerless object. However, this is a genuine and powerful Dharma Laksana. Even though it looks a little broken now, its power is still not to be underestimated. "Brother Zhua, when we get close, be careful," Duan Jiping said with a serious expression. Zhuowen nodded heavily. The two of them began to approach the huge light shadow. When they were about 100 feet away from the cosmic Laksana, their expressions changed slightly as they felt an extremely terrifying pressure. It was the pressure emitted by the cosmic Laksana. As the Dharma flowed, it formed a terrifying storm of Dharma laws. 5 elements Dharma, space-time Dharma, thunder Dharma. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly, especially when he felt the Dharma laws surging on the cosmic Laksana. There were all kinds of Dharma laws. He was really shocked. The so-called cosmic Laksana naturally requires all the Dharma laws in the universe to condense a real Dharma Laksana. Therefore, if you want to condense a cosmic Laksana, not only must you understand all the Dharma laws in the universe, you must also master the law of condensing a Dharma Laksana. Duan Jiping saw Zhuowen's surprised expression and patiently explained to him, "I only understood this after my cultivation reached the peak of the heaven and earth calamity. Although I have understood all the Dharma laws, I still can't fully grasp the law of condensing a Dharma Laksana." Duan Jiping smiled bitterly. "Be careful." Suddenly, Zhuowen's sharp eyes discovered several thunder-attributed laws flying over from the front. He immediately shouted, "Stop!" Duan Jiping reacted and used his movement technique to dodge the attacks of the Thunder Dharma laws. At the same time, he also stirred up his divine power to build an extremely powerful defense around his body. Moreover, Duan Jiping even took out his universe world just in case. "Brother Zhua, enter my Qiankuan world," Duan Jiping said to Zhuowen as he opened the Qiankuan world for Zhuowen to enter. Duan Jiping's universe world was much stronger than ordinary experts of the heaven and earth calamity. Although the chaotic storm of Dharma laws around the cosmic Laksana was terrifying, it was unable to break through the defense of Duan Jiping's universe world in a short period of time. Boom, 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 boom. The storm of Dharma laws bombarded the surface of the universe world, causing terrifying and ear-piercing explosions. It was like countless firecrackers exploding, extremely ear-piercing. Under such bombardment, Duan Jiping's universe world shook violently and was on the verge of collapse. However, it was very strong and did not break because of this. Of course, due to the obstruction of the storm of Dharma laws, the speed of their advancement was greatly affected and was as slow as a turtle. As expected, the real coffin of flowing flames is in this Dharma Laksana. Chapter 41:52. After a few hours, the two of them finally arrived at the center of the Dharma idol and landed beside the white jade coffin. The laws here were even more chaotic and violent. Duan Jiping was trying his best to resist the storm of laws. His face was slightly pale, and cold sweat kept breaking out on his forehead. "Brother Duan, can you still hold on?" Zhuowen asked worriedly when he saw that Duan Jiping was struggling so much. "It's fine. Brother Zhua, put away this coffin first. Moreover, I was going to absorb the essence of the laws in this cosmic idol. Once I completely absorb this cosmic idol, I should be able to completely grasp the law of condensing cosmic idols. This is nothing to me." Duan Jiping gritted his teeth. Zhuowen looked at Duan Jiping with pity. The latter still had to stay in this cosmic idol for a long time. When the time came, he would have to endure tremendous pain. I'm worried that Duan Jiping won't be able to endure it. However, the path of cultivation was never easy. If you wanted to advance bravely, you had to endure pain that ordinary people couldn't endure and pay a price that ordinary people couldn't bear. After Zhuowen put away the white jade coffin, Duan Jiping activated the Qian Kun world and sent Zhuowen out of the range of the cosmic idol. Brother Zhua, I'll leave the things in this white jade coffin to you. I'll absorb this cosmic idol first. I need to go into seclusion for a while. After Duan Jiping finished speaking, he entered the cosmic idol again. However, this time, he didn't enter the deepest part. Instead, he sat down cross-legged at the top of a hill in the periphery and began to absorb the essence of the various laws in the cosmic idol. Zhuowen shook his head. It seemed that Duan Jiping really couldn't wait to condense the cosmic idol. He didn't even want to take a look at Lu Yan's coffin. Zhuowen came to an empty valley and took out the coffin again. The white jade coffin in front of him was much better than the fake coffin that Su Zhou and the others had snatched, whether it was in size or the exquisite relief on the surface. Moreover, an extremely terrifying pressure was emitted from within the white jade coffin. That pressure was far stronger than a peak expert like Duan Jiping. Zhuowen knew that this should be the pressure that belonged to the universe's Dharma laws. Although Lu Yanhua had died, he was still an expert of the cosmic Dharma. The pressure that he unconsciously emitted after his death was also extremely terrifying. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to resist it. Furthermore, there were many mechanisms and restrictions inside the coffin. Zhuowen's lips curled into a smile as he said, "If an ordinary person were to open this coffin, it would be very troublesome. However, it's not difficult for me to open it." This was because Bai Tiangong was one of the core participants in the construction of the coffin. Bai Tiangong knew the structure of the coffin very well, and Zhuowen, who had inherited Bai Tiangong's memories, had no difficulty opening the coffin. In addition, after Zhuowen had cracked the Jade Gate God-slaying array, his array skills had once again advanced by leaps and bounds. He had already reached the peak of the first heaven of the eternal level. Therefore, the many restrictions in the coffin did not cause any trouble for Zhuowen. About an hour later, Zhuowen had completely cracked the complicated restrictions on the surface of the coffin. Ka. A strange sound came from the coffin. It was a bit like the sound of old gears turning. Then, pieces of crystal clear white jade protruded from the surface of the white jade coffin. More and more white jade appeared, causing the size of the white jade coffin to continuously increase. The speed of this increase was increasing exponentially. In less than a quarter of an hour, the size of the coffin, which was originally only 100 feet in size, had increased by 100 times. In front of Zhuowen's eyes, it had turned into a huge white jade palace that was 1,000 feet in size. Huang Xiaolong had to admit that the person who had built this coffin was ingenious. He was able to piece together so many pieces of white jade in such a huge palace. Moreover, he was able to shrink it to the size of 100 feet. This was the result of using the space law to the extreme and being proficient in various array principles and mechanisms. Zhuowen silently walked into the palace. He knew that the moment he cracked the coffin's restrictions, there were no more traps or dangers inside the palace. Inside the palace, precious top-grade, chaos spiritual veins could be seen everywhere. These spiritual veins were like swimming snakes, shuttling back and forth inside the palace, causing the chaos energy inside the palace to reach the peak. With a casual wave of his hand, he could easily liquefy a large amount of chaos spiritual liquid in his palm. Other than that, Zhuowen even saw powerful divine artifacts in the passageways. The lowest grade among them was Heaven Breaker 8th Order, and the highest had even surpassed the Heaven Breaker 8th Order. Of course, there were very few divine artifacts of this grade. Other than that, there were also many high-grade divine herbs that were stored in certain side halls of the palace. Zhuowen went deeper into the palace, and finally stopped at the deepest part of the palace. In the deepest part of the palace was a spacious hall, and at the end of the hall was a throne that stood on top of white jade steps. At this moment, a stalwart figure was sitting quietly on the throne. This was a middle-aged man with white hair that reached his shoulders. He wasn't handsome, but he was pleasing to the eye. His features were well-defined, and he had a unique temperament. Just like that, he sat quietly on the throne, calmly looking at the front. The moment Zhuowen stepped into the hall, his eyes met the white-haired man's, and his expression changed slightly. He felt a terrifying pressure invading his body through his eyes, causing his face to distort and cold sweat to trickle down his back. Zhuowen hurriedly turned his head, no longer meeting the white-haired man's gaze. The terrifying pressure finally dissipated, and his expression returned to normal. This person should be that Lu Yanhua. Zhuowen didn't dare to look at the white-haired man. His gaze fell on the white-haired man's body as he muttered to himself. He had inherited by Tiangong's memories, so he naturally knew what Lu Yanhua looked like. Moreover, he also knew that Lu Yanhua had completely fallen, and even his soul had been destroyed. The thing in front of him was merely his corpse. Zhuowen slowly walked towards the throne, but his heart was beating extremely fast. He was very clear that the most precious thing hidden inside the coffin wasn't the boundless top-grade chaos spiritual veins, divine artifacts, or divine herbs. Instead, it was the information about the ruins where Lu Yanhua had lost his life. Since a cosmic law realm expert like Lu Yanhua was willing to risk his life to protect this information, it was clear that the ruins were extraordinary. Chapter 4153. Zhuowen searched the inside and outside of the White Jade Palace 3 times. What made his expression turn unsightly was that he didn't find any clues about the ruins. The ruins were Lu Yanhua's most precious secret, and he had never mentioned it to anyone else. Even though Bai Tiangong had once served Flowing Flame and was at his beck and call, he still didn't know this secret of Flowing Flame. Zhuowen knew that relying on Bai Tiangong's memory was no longer reliable. If he wanted to find clues about the ruins, he could only rely on himself. However, he had already searched the entire White Jade Palace several times, but he did not find anything. Could it be that Lu Yanhua had destroyed the information before he died? Zhuowen returned to the hall deep in the palace, his eyes revealing a thoughtful look. Suddenly, his eyes looked at the figure sitting on the throne in the depths. I think I neglected this place. Zhuowen had an idea. His eyes slowly became hot as he looked at Lu Yanhua's corpse sitting on the throne. In the entire White Jade Palace, the only place that had not been searched was the throne where Lu Yanhua's corpse was sitting. At first, Zhuowen did not care, but now he had to. He took a deep breath and cast out his natal lone star. One after another, huge stars began to revolve around him in different trajectories. After taking out his natal lone star, Zhuowen was still not at ease. He took out several array discs, all of which were defensive arrays at the first firmament of the eternal level. Xiaohei, I'll have to trouble you. At the same time, Zhuowen also took out the Taiyu's sacred sword, which hung close to his body. Xiaohei lay lazily on the Taiyu's sacred sword and looked speechlessly at the cautious Zhuowen. It's just a corpse. Do you have to be so careful? Xiaohei said with contempt. It's better to be safe than sorry. After all, this Flowing Flame is an expert of the cosmic dharma. Although he's been dead for some time, who knows if he has left some tricks up his sleeves? Zhuowen ignored Xiaohei's disdain and spoke seriously. Xiaohei curled her lips, but did not say anything. However, a serious glint flashed across her black eyes. Zhuowen slowly approached the throne, his vigilance at its highest. However, he was surprised to find that nothing had happened even after he arrived in front of the throne. Kid, look. Xiaohei shrugged, her words carrying a hint of mockery. You're the one who's being overly paranoid. Flowing Flames didn't have any backup plans. Zhuowen also breathed a sigh of relief. He reached out and began to search Lu Yanhua's body. He knew that if Flowing Flame hadn't destroyed the information about the ruins, he must have carried it with him. After a while, Zhuan noticed that Flowing Flames was wearing a thumb ring on his left thumb. He took off the ring and observed it for a while. Then, he said happily, "This ring should be Flowing Flame's storage artifact." At the same time, Zhuan discovered that Flowing Flame's body began to emit a blazing golden light before dispersing into countless spots of light. Zhuan spent a lot of effort to break the restriction on the ring. Then, he probed into the ring with his divine sense. The space inside the ring was very large. It was obviously an extremely high-level storage artifact. The amount of resources inside was even more than the palace. Zhuan was almost dazzled. He suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and began to carefully search the space inside the ring. Soon, he found a mysterious piece of black gold paper in the ring's space. This piece of black gold paper wasn't complete. Instead, it was damaged. It was about 1/5 the size of a complete piece of paper. What shocked Zhuan even more was that the aura emitted by this piece of black gold paper was extremely powerful. It was actually not inferior to the aura emitted by Duan Jipang when he was at his peak. Zhuan took out this piece of black gold paper and discovered that there were faint blue lines drawn on its surface. The vein patterns were very complicated. However, if one were to look carefully, one would be able to tell that the vein patterns were, in essence, a special route. This should be the information about the ruins in Flowing Flame's hands. So it's just a damaged map. A thoughtful look appeared in Zhuan's eyes. Without a doubt, the route on this piece of black gold paper should lead to the ruins. What surprised Zhuan even more was that although the route on this map was damaged, there was a very obvious mark in the upper left corner. The mark wasn't complete. Obviously, this complete map should have been split into pieces with the central mark as the starting point. And the destination of this damaged mark should be the location of the real ruins. Just as Zhuan was deep in thought, he didn't notice that the black gold paper in his hand flashed with a black gold light. Then, the black gold paper suddenly trembled and abruptly left Zhuan's hand and soared into the sky. Boom! 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 What shocked Zhuan was that the unusually sturdy dome of the white jade palace was easily cut open by the black gold paper. The black gold paper was extremely fast. It turned into a ray of light and rapidly escaped into the distance. Want to escape? Not so easy. A sharp light burst out from Zhuan's eyes. He leapt up and turned into a ray of light, quickly chasing after the black gold paper. When Zhuan caught up with the black gold paper, the latter suddenly changed direction and swept towards Zhuan. The sharp edge of the paper was like the sharpest sword in the world, cutting towards Zhuan's neck. Zhuan narrowed his eyes. Runes appeared on his right hand and blocked the black gold paper. Bang! 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 Muffled sounds rang out continuously. After that, Zhuan was shocked to discover that the formation markings on his palm were being destroyed at an extremely fast speed. He was completely shocked. This black gold paper was really amazing. It was so sharp that even the runes he had set up couldn't block it. Zhuan was helpless. He took out the Taiyu sacred sword and stood on the black gold paper. Clang! The moment the Taiyu sacred sword and the black gold paper collided, a large amount of dazzling sparks flew. This paper is really tough. But if you want to compete with this Dragon Lord, I think you're just asking to be humiliated. Xiao Hei's cold laughter came from the Taiyu sacred sword. Then, the Taiyu sacred sword left Zhuan's hand and began to unleash a terrifying storm of attacks on the black gold paper. Chapter 41-54. Boom! The high abyss sacred sword slashed out and landed heavily on the surface of the black gold paper. A string of sparks jumped out, after which Zhuan saw the black gold paper fall from the sky like a withered leaf. The black gold light that continuously flickered on its surface had also become much dimmer. When the array patterns bound it to the ground, the black gold paper no longer struggled too much. It only trembled for a while before softly falling into the sea of array patterns. Whoosh! Zhuowen waved his right hand and caught the black gold paper in his palm. The black gold paper flickered faintly and no longer struggled. Zhuowen heaved a light sigh of relief, and he glanced at the black gold piece of paper with a rather fearful expression. He set up a few more sealing formations before he put the black gold piece of paper away with ease. The black gold paper contained the secrets of the ruins. He would study it carefully after leaving this place. After Zhuowen walked out of the White Jade Palace, he looked at the figure sitting inside the cosmic idol and absorbing the essence of the laws. His eyes flickered. After thinking for a while, he returned to the White Jade Palace. He knew very well that Duan Jiping was comprehending the cosmic idol during this period of time. He obviously couldn't disturb him. He might as well use this period of time to cultivate. The resources in the White Jade Palace were extremely rich. Whether it was top-grade chaos spiritual veins or divine herbs that surpassed heaven-breaking divine herbs, they were all dazzling, and there were many of them. With these resources, Zhuowen was confident that he could break through again in a short time and reach the peak of the ancient star transformation realm. Zhuowen collected all the resources in the White Jade Palace and moved them to the hall in the depths of the palace. He sat cross-legged in the center and began to absorb the resources piled up around him, transforming them into his own divine power. While Zhuowen and Duan Jiping were in seclusion, the group of people in the main hall was still searching for them. Suzhou, Ziyu, and the others took advantage of the time when everyone's attention was on Zhuowen to quietly leave the main hall and the tomb. They stopped in a remote valley tens of thousands of miles away from the purple flame sacred mountain. Brother Suzhou, we have obtained everything. It's time to distribute it and then return home. Ziyu rubbed her hands and looked at the white jade coffin that Suzhou had taken out with shining eyes. Linlong and his wife's eyes were also blazing. They also couldn't wait to see what kind of treasure was inside the white jade coffin. Suzhou nodded and didn't object. He said in a low voice, "There are some formations and restrictions on the surface of the coffin. I've been studying them all along the way, and I've finally found the core of the formation. Let's see what kind of treasure is inside the coffin first." As he spoke, Suzhou formed a palm with his right hand, and then surging divine energy surged and suddenly descended towards the center of the coffin. Suddenly, a strange, dull sound came from the coffin's surface and then an invisible ripple spread out in all directions. When the ripple dissipated, the coffin regained its calm and revealed the unique luster of the white jade coffin. Suzhou and the others' eyes burst with light. They knew that the restrictions on the coffin had been completely broken. However, Suzhou frowned. He felt that the restrictions on the surface of the white jade coffin were a little too simple. Even someone like him, who only knew a little about arrays, could find the core of the array. This didn't seem to be in line with how a cosmic Dharma practitioner would protect his own coffin. However, he didn't think too much about it. Instead, he slowly opened the lid of the white jade coffin. When the lid of the coffin was lifted, a beam of light soared into the sky, and a terrifying energy spread out. "Not good. It's a trap. Leave quickly." Suzhou was the first to react. He didn't even think about it. He took out his silver spear and used the spear's power to escape into space-time. Ziyu's reaction wasn't slow either. The moment Suzhou shouted, she immediately turned into a purple light and quickly retreated. Linlong and his wife were blinded by greed. Not only did they not listen to Suzhou's words, but they also opened the coffin completely to investigate. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the lid was opened, the terrifying energy inside the white jade coffin exploded and completely enveloped Linlong and his wife. Apart from that, the terrifying explosive energy spread out in all directions with an unstoppable momentum. Its speed was extremely fast. Ziyu, who had already retreated, was actually caught up by the explosion. She couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and her face turned pale. Ziyu's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. She took out a purple tortoise shell and summoned it. The tortoise shell suddenly became huge and protected Ziyu inside. The explosion's momentum was too terrifying. It could be described as earth-shattering. Countless mountains, trees, and creatures within a radius of thousands of miles were annihilated in the explosion. Cracks appeared on the ground, forming abyss after abyss. Terrifying, life-devouring magma surged out and soared into the sky. The entire scene was like the end of the world. This terrifying explosion completely alarmed countless cultivators who were still searching for treasures in the tomb thousands of miles away. They rushed out like a swarm of bees. When they saw the terrifying explosion in the distance and the doomsday-like scene, they were dumbstruck. What a terrifying, explosive energy. What the hell is going on? Everyone was at a loss. In their opinion, such a terrifying explosion was enough to tear apart an ordinary Great Tribulation expert. Most of them would have died if they were caught in it. Mo Fayu, the green-robed elder, Fu Di, and the other experts were also attracted. They also looked at the explosion in the distance with shocked eyes. When the explosion completely ended, they saw two dying figures falling to the ground at the core of the explosion. They hurriedly went over and found that the two figures were Lin Long and his wife. At this moment, Lin Long and his wife's bodies were about to collapse from the explosion. Blood gushed out from the cracks in their bodies. Their eyes were in a state of shock and horror. Everyone knew that Lin Long and his wife probably wouldn't survive because their souls were torn to pieces in the explosion. It would be difficult for them to come back. Crack! Crack! Not far away, a purple tortoise shell shattered and was annihilated in front of everyone's eyes. A wretched purple-haired youth fell out of the tortoise shell. Brother Ziyu, are you okay? Fu Di, Ji Fanshin, and the other geniuses on the realm beyond realm immediately rushed over to support the seriously injured Ziyu. Compared to Lin Long and his wife, who were on the verge of death, Ziyu's condition was obviously better, but his injuries were also extremely serious. Damn, it's actually fake, so ruthless. Ziyu stammered and then simply fainted. Chapter 4155. What's going on here? Mo Fengyu, the green-robed elder, and the others came forward. They observed the dilapidated surroundings, their eyes full of confusion. Fu Di shook his head. I'm not very sure what happened either. Brother Z, you should be the only witness. But his injuries are too serious, and he's unconscious. Just as everyone was in a state of confusion, the space nearby began to distort. A figure holding a silver spear slowly stepped out of it. This youth wore a silver mask and held a silver spear. He exuded an indescribable sense of mystery. He was Suzhou. Brother Suzhou, so you're here. Do you know what happened just now? Fu Di supported the unconscious Ziyu and couldn't help but ask Suzhou. All the cultivators present focused their gazes on Suzhou. Ziyu and Suzhou were together. Now that Ziyu had fainted, then Suzhou should have been nearby when what happened just now happened. If they wanted to know what had happened, Suzhou should know. Suzhou clutched his chest. Traces of blood seeped out from under the silver mask. He hadn't come out unscathed from the terrifying explosion just now. Sigh, we got a fake coffin. Suzhou sighed softly. Everyone was shocked, especially Mo Fengyu and the others. They stared at Suzhou with narrowed eyes. Suzhou's words undoubtedly showed that he had already obtained the coffin. And what Zhuan had said back then wasn't a lie. And they had only been fooled by Suzhou. Gongzi Suzhou, it seems that you've hidden a lot of things from us. It's better if you tell us now. Otherwise, even if your background isn't weak, we won't let this matter rest. Mo Fengyu said indifferently. Suzhou naturally sensed that the gazes from the surrounding people had become sharp and unfriendly. He knew that if he didn't give them an explanation, they wouldn't let this matter rest. The reason why he mentioned this matter was mainly because he suspected that Zhuan might have already known about the location of the tomb. This was because after they left the inner hall, Zhuan did not come out. Instead, it was as if he had evaporated into thin air. There was no trace of him at all. Suzhou was extremely intelligent and immediately connected the dots. If he told the truth, not only would he be cleared of suspicion, but he would also be able to draw everyone's attention to Zhuan, and he would be able to rejoin the search for Zhuan. It's like this. Suzhou slowly explained everything that happened in the inner hall, as well as the details of them sneaking out to open the coffin. Everyone revealed shocked expressions when they heard this. They never imagined that the coffin that Suzhou and the others had obtained would actually be fake. Moreover, there was even a terrifying trap within it. Although some people had doubts in their hearts, they didn't doubt it too much. After all, Suzhou, Ziyu, and the others had paid a heavy price. Linlong and his wife were on the verge of death from the explosion. Ziyu was seriously injured and unconscious. Even Suzhou's injuries were not light. Some people even rejoiced that they hadn't participated in the team that had snatched the fake coffin. After all, snatching the fake coffin was a thankless task. Gongzi Suzhou, why are you so sure that Zhuowen can find the real tomb? Mo Fiu finally asked the question in his heart. Zhuowen and Duan Jiping were the same as us. They were also in the inner hall. After we left the inner hall, they didn't come out. At that time, I returned to the inner hall, but I didn't see the two of them. Then the answer is very clear. The two of them didn't leave the inner hall at all. Perhaps the real tomb is in the inner hall. Also, besides the fake coffin, there were actually 2 balls of light in the inner hall. However, those were Zhuowen and Duan Jiping respectively took the 2 balls of light. I suspect that the secret to entering the real tomb is in those 2 balls of light. Suzhou methodically analyzed. Mo Fiu, the green-robed elder, and the others all nodded inwardly. Suzhou's analysis was reasonable. Gongzi Suzhou, you have to lead the way this time. We will follow behind you. I don't think Gongzi Suzhou will object, right? Mo Fiu grinned coldly. Suzhou looked at the covetous eyes of the people around him. He also knew that Mo Fiu's request was to prevent him from sneaking away again. He couldn't refuse, so he nodded. Haha, Gongzi Suzhou is a straightforward person. Then Gongzi Suzhou will lead the way first. Mo Fiu laughed. Suzhou nodded and said to Fu Di behind him, Take good care, Brother Ziyu. If anything happens to him, I think you won't be able to explain it to Xiling Domain. Fu Di quickly nodded. They knew a little about Ziyu's identity, so they naturally didn't dare to neglect him. Under Suzhou's lead, the group of people once again entered the main hall of the tomb in a mighty array. After entering the main hall, Suzhou went straight to the inner hall. Although the inner hall was large, it couldn't accommodate so many cultivators. Therefore, only the stronger cultivators could enter. As for the other cultivators, they could only wait outside for news. The inner hall is already in such a state. It seems that the battle before was quite intense. The green-robed elder looked around at the cracked surface of the inner hall. He couldn't help but frown. Suzhou turned a deaf ear to him. Instead, he continued to investigate every corner of the inner hall, not letting go of any details. Finally, he stopped at the center of the inner hall. He gently stroked the ground in the center. If I'm not wrong, the circle in the center of the inner hall should have been opened before. Perhaps there is a passageway below, Suzhou said solemnly. Mo Fiu, the green-robed elder, and the others followed Suzhou's finger and observed carefully. They indeed saw a thin, circular crack in the center, like a circular door that was tightly shut. Well, no, once we blast it open. Mo Fiu was rather impatient. His right hand formed a fist. Terrifying calamity power condensed in his fist. He punched the ground in the center. Boom! There was a terrifying explosion. Then a terrifying wave of chi swept out in all directions. Then, everyone was shocked to find that Mo Fiu was sent flying with a grunt. His entire body was embedded in the dome of the inner hall. The circular outline in the center of the inner hall didn't move at all. There wasn't even a crack. Chapter 4156. Bang! Mo Fiu jumped down from the dome in a rather sorry state. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with both shock and anger. He had not expected that his all-out attack would not only fail to shatter the ground in the center, but that he would end up in such a sorry state. Everyone, let's attack together. I don't believe we can't break the ground in the center. Mo eyes were gloomy. His suggestion immediately received everyone's approval. Anyone who could gather in the inner hall had the strength of the great tribulation of heaven and earth, or the cultivation of the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Under Mo's leadership, they gathered all their divine power and, with a roar, blasted the ground in the center. Boom, 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 boom. Continuous explosions rang out, and even more terrifying shockwaves swept out. The entire inner hall could not withstand the terrifying shockwaves and directly collapsed into ruins. But what stunned everyone was that, even though the entire inner hall had been destroyed into ruins, the ground in the center was still as undamaged as a mountain. How is this possible? Suzhou also revealed a look of disbelief. The ground in the center was too sturdy. Their group of strongest cultivators had joined forces and still could not cause any damage to it. I don't believe it. Again, Mo's face was gloomy. He once again led everyone to attack the ground in the center. Time and time again, their joint attacks were all in vain. Some cultivators were even injured and coughed up blood because they were unable to withstand the rebounding shockwaves. Don't waste your energy. No matter how many times you attack, you shouldn't be able to break the ground in the center. It should have been strengthened by that cosmic Dharma powerhouse. That's why it's so sturdy. If that cosmic Dharma powerhouse hadn't come in person, we wouldn't have been able to break it. No matter how many times you attack, it won't help, Suzhou said with a frown. Then what do we do? Are we going to give up just like that? The green-robed elder was very dissatisfied. Suzhou said indifferently, will Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng stay in the tomb for the rest of their lives? They will come out eventually. Can't we just wait for them to come out? Mo, the green-robed elder, and the others looked at each other and nodded. They felt that Suzhou's suggestion was not bad. All they had to do was wait. No matter what benefits Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng had obtained, as long as they caught the two of them, wouldn't the opportunity on them be theirs? After everyone had reached a consensus, they surrounded the main hall in 3 layers, making it so that not even a drop of water could trickle through. After doing this, they all hid their figures. As long as there was any movement in the main hall, it would not be able to escape their detection. Time gradually passed. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. There were not many resources left around him, but his aura had become even more vast and terrifying. Crackle. Zhuowen stood up, and the bones in his body actually emitted a muffled sound filled with strength. I've finally reached the pinnacle of the ancient star transformation. Zhuowen clenched his fists, his eyes filled with excitement. Although he had only advanced by a small level, his strength had still undergone a huge qualitative change. He could feel that with his current strength, even if he faced Mo, the green-robed elder, and the other pinnacle experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe, it would not be so easy for them to kill Zhuowen, even if he could not defeat them. In addition, Zhuowen had many trump cards on him. The pinnacle experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe, such as Mo and the green-robed elder, were not as much of a threat to him as they were at the beginning. When Zhuowen stepped out of the White Jade Palace again, he found that Duan Jipeng was still sitting in the cosmic aspect. However, Duan Jipeng was no longer sitting on the periphery of the cosmic aspect. Instead, he was sitting in the core position of the cosmic aspect. Moreover, Zhuowen also keenly noticed that the light of the laws intertwined on the cosmic aspect was much dimmer than it had been 3 months ago. Obviously, the essence of the cosmic aspect had been absorbed by Duan Jipeng in the past 3 months. He knew that when all the essence of the cosmic aspect had been completely absorbed by Duan Jipeng, perhaps Duan Jipeng would have the opportunity to condense the cosmic aspect. Next, Zhuowen did not go into seclusion again. He had just broken through, and it was unlikely that he would break through again in a short period of time. Moreover, he had a premonition that if he broke through to the great carefree realm, the resources he would need would be absolutely unimaginable. His harvest in the tomb could be said to be extremely rich. If it were an ordinary cultivator, it would be enough for him to cultivate to the great tribulation of universe. However, Zhuowen had a premonition that these resources might not be enough. Moreover, half of these resources belonged to Duan Jiping. This was what he had previously agreed with the latter. Therefore, Zhuowen was not in a hurry to break through again. Instead, he began to focus on alchemy and array Dao in addition to cultivation. Especially in alchemy, his level was only at heaven-breaking level 9, which was far below array Dao. This was also why Zhuowen had focused on array Dao some time ago. With the help of the enigmatic ancient book Heaven Patching Catalog, his array Dao had advanced so quickly. Now, because the Heaven Patching Catalog was incomplete, his limit was only at the peak of the first heaven of the eternal level. If he wanted to break through again, he had to find a more powerful ancient book of array Dao, or find the complete Heaven Patching Catalog. Otherwise, it would be difficult for Zhuowen to advance further in array Dao. As for alchemy, because Zhuowen had inherited by Tiangong's memory, the latter's alchemy and array Dao had both reached the first heaven of the eternal level. Therefore, Zhuowen wanted to break through to the first heaven of the eternal level in alchemy in a short period of time. Next, Zhuowen began to frantically refine the first heaven of the eternal level divine pills. As long as he could successfully refine them, his alchemy would smoothly enter the first heaven of the eternal level. Of course, it was very difficult to refine a divine pill of this level, even if Zhuowen had by Tiangong's memory and experience. Fortunately, he had harvested a large number of divine herbs this time, most of which were of the first heaven of the eternal level. Therefore, this gave him the capital to squander. After a month, Zhuowen had wasted dozens of cauldrons of pills. He finally succeeded on the last day. Zhuowen stood up and slammed his right hand on the pill cauldron in front of him. Suddenly, the lid of the cauldron was lifted, and a 7-colored rainbow shot up into the sky. Above the vault of heaven, a rainbow-like long bridge appeared, spanning across the horizon. Following that, an extremely rich medicinal power filled the whole world. Zhuowen looked over and found that at the top of the 7-colored rainbow, there was a thumb-sized 7-colored pill. This rainbow-colored pill flew through the air like a free fish, galloping between heaven and earth without the slightest scruple. Zhuowen silently watched the 7-colored pill play, and the corners of his mouth revealed a smile of excitement. The 7-colored pill was called the 7 Ultimate Yang Divine Pill. It was a healing divine pill of the first heaven of the eternal level. It was considered a primary divine pill of the eternal level. But even this primary divine pill of the eternal level was enough to make many experts of the great calamity of universe fight over it. Chapter 41:57. Zhuowen waved his sleeve, and the 7 Ultimate Yang Restoration Divine Pill flew back to his palm. It touched Zhuowen's palm intimately. After all, the 7 Ultimate Yang Restoring Divine Pill was an eternal gray divine pill with a unique spirituality. It naturally knew that Zhuowen was its creator and had a deep sense of dependence on him. After putting away the 7 Ultimate Yang Restoration Pill, Zhuowen frowned slightly. He could not help but look at the huge cosmic form in the middle of the mountain range in the distance. At this moment, the cosmic avatar had become dim and lifeless. The countless laws surrounding the cosmic avatar had become so thin that they were almost undetectable. Boom! All of a sudden, the huge cosmic image suddenly collapsed. Due to the loss of control, the laws formed a terrifying storm of laws that wreaked havoc in the endless mountains. Boom! Boom! Terrifying explosions rang out continuously, causing Zhuowen's expression to change drastically. He kept the white jade palace and immediately flew backwards. When he retreated tens of thousands of miles away, he saw that the mountain range where the cosmic form was had completely collapsed and turned into an illusory ruin. Not good, Brother Duan. Zhuowen's expression changed. He hadn't expected such a change to happen to the cosmic image. Thinking about Duan Jiping still in the core of the cosmic image, he couldn't help but panic. After the terrifying storm of laws weakened a lot, Zhuan took a step forward and arrived at the mountain range that had already turned into ruins. The towering mountains had long been shattered into countless pieces of rocks. In the center of the mountain ruins, there was an incomparably deep pit. It was pitch black, and it was impossible to see how deep it was. Ha ha ha. So that's how it is. So that's how the laws of the universe work. I finally understand. In the depths of this incomparably deep pit, an unrestrained laughter resounded from within the pit and spread throughout the entire world. After that, Zhuan saw a rather miserable figure slowly fly out from the depths of the pit. His face was filled with the excitement of great enlightenment. He was, of course, Duan Jiping. Duan Jiping obviously also noticed Zhuan, who was not far away with a worried look on his face. He hurried to the latter's side, unable to stop smiling. "Brother Duan, have you condensed a cosmic form?" Zhuan asked tentatively. Duan Jiping shook his head and said, No. I just understood the essence of the cosmic form and mastered the final laws. Now, it is no longer a problem for me to condense my own cosmic form, but it will take a long time. It will take some time. This place is not very suitable. Zhuo nodded. He felt happy for Duan Jiping in his heart. After all, Duan Jiping's strength would be of great help to him. "Brother Duan, this ring contains half of the resources in the coffin." Zhuan took out a sparkling green thumb ring and handed it to Duan Jiping. Duan Jiping took the ring with a trace of hesitation and shame in his eyes. To him, a cosmic form was already the best treasure. He had obtained Lu Yinhua's cosmic form and mastered the laws of condensing cosmic forms, which was already a great advantage for him. Now, he had to share half of the tomb's resources with Zhuan. He was indeed a little embarrassed, although he had the intention to refuse. After seeing Zhuan's resolute gaze, he knew that if he were to refuse, then a crack might appear in his relationship with Zhuan. Hee, Brother Zhuan, it's really been hard on you. Duan Jiping accepted the ring with a grin and no longer said any nonsense. It's about time we leave. However, I think Su Zhou and the others have already discovered that what they took was a fake coffin. If we go out, we might be intercepted by many people. Zhuan said helplessly. He knew very well that whether it was Su Zhou, Mo Fengyu, or the green-robed old man, they would not easily give up the treasures in the tomb. They must be waiting outside for the two of them to appear. When the time came, they would gang up and attack them. Duan Jiping sneered. "Brother Zhuan, if it was before we entered the real tomb, I would be afraid of Mo Fengyu, the green-robed old man, and the other experts of the great tribulation of universe. But now, it should be them who are afraid of me." Zhuan looked at the confident Duan Jiping in surprise. It seemed that although the latter had not successfully condensed a cosmic form, he had also obtained a lot of benefits, greatly increasing his battle strength. "Brother Zhuan, let's go. I like to see if they really dare to snatch food from the tiger's mouth." Duan Jiping was in high spirits as he stepped toward the exit. Zhuan shrugged and followed behind Duan Jiping. Speaking of which, he had also gained a lot this time. Ordinary experts of the great tribulation of universe were not his match. If he used his trump card, even peak experts of the great tribulation of universe might not be able to defeat him. The exit here was not the original entrance, but another passage. Zhuan had inadvertently seen the internal structure of the tomb after he had obtained the White Jade Palace. Only then did he know the specific direction of the exit. They rushed toward the west and came to the far west. There stood a huge bronze door that was so high that it could not be reached. This bronze door was far larger than any that Zhuan had seen before. It stood between heaven and earth, as if it connected heaven and earth. In the center of the bronze door, there was a medium-sized gap. Behind the door, there were wisps of dazzling scarlet light. Zhuan and Duan Jiping stopped in front of the door and hesitated. This bronze door was a little strange. They were not sure if it was the real exit. "Brother Zhuan, did you make a mistake? Why do I feel that there's something wrong with this bronze door?" Duan Jiping rubbed his hands. Zhuan rolled his eyes and said, "That structure diagram should be real. This bronze door looks strange, but it's the real exit. After saying that, Zhuowen took a step forward and entered the gap of the bronze door. Soon, his figure was drowned by the scarlet light behind the door. Duan Jiping smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly followed. The moment he entered the gap, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with a scarlet color. He discovered that the surroundings were incomparably bright blood-red rivers. These blood-red rivers were like vigorous pythons as they whistled through the surroundings and flew wantonly. The entire space was filled with a rather pungent and dense smell of blood. Zhuowen remained unmoved instead, and he ceaselessly descended along a crystalline and translucent staircase. His footsteps were orderly, regular, and even. Duan Jiping frowned slightly. The smell of blood in the surroundings was too strong. Even he felt uncomfortable. However, when he saw Zhuowen walking forward as if nothing had happened, he did not say anything and silently followed him. Chapter 4158. Brother Duan, the blood river and the stench of blood around us are just illusions. Don't fall into it. Zhuowen suddenly stopped and turned to look at Duan Jiping, whose eyes were slightly bloodshot, with an extremely serious expression. Duan Jiping, whose eyes were originally bloodshot, was stunned when he heard Zhuowen's warning. Then he quickly calmed down. The scarlet in his eyes gradually faded. When he looked at his surroundings again, although the river of blood was still raging, the choking smell of blood had disappeared without a trace. Brother Zhuo, thank you. Duan Jiping smiled bitterly and hurriedly cupped his hands at Zhuowen. If not for Zhuowen's warning, he might have really been affected by this illusion. At the same time, he was even more impressed with Zhuowen. The latter's cultivation was only at the ancient star transformation stage, but he was actually not affected by this illusion at all. It was really amazing. What Duan Jiping did not know was that although Zhuowen's cultivation was not strong, his soul was stronger than Duan Jiping's. Moreover, he was proficient in the array Dao. When he first entered this place, he knew that there was a powerful illusion array here. Therefore, he kept his mind clear and unaffected. He was surprised that Duan Jiping, an expert who was about to condense the cosmic Laksana, had almost fallen into it. It seemed that the illusion array here was really not weak. After Duan Jiping woke up, he kept his mind alert at all times. The illusion around him did not affect him. After about an hour, they reached the end of the stairs. When they walked out, they found that they had appeared at the entrance of a cave on the peak of the purple flame divine mountain. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as they walked out of the cave, dozens of figures immediately appeared around them. Then, someone released a signal flare that shot into the sky. Suddenly, more figures rushed over from other parts of the purple flame divine mountain. Many of them rushed out from the temple on the peak of the mountain and surrounded Zhuowen and Duan Jiping. Found them. They finally came out. Excited voices immediately sounded from the surroundings. The many cultivators surrounding Zhuowen and Duan Jiping all looked at the two of them with shining eyes. It was as if at this moment, Zhuowen and Duan Jiping had both become delicious steamed buns in their eyes. "Ha! Brother Zhuo, Brother Duan, you've kept us waiting." A burst of hearty laughter came from not far away. Up ahead, a group of people slowly parted, and a young man wearing a silver mask slowly walked out from the crowd. He was none other than Su Daytime. Behind Su Zhou was the purple-haired and purple-eyed Ziyu. However, Ziyu's face was slightly pale. Although the explosion of the fake coffin had obviously affected Ziyu greatly, he still hadn't fully recovered after a few months and was still seriously injured. Oomph. He was finally out. We have been waiting for you for a long time. On the other side of the encirclement, Mo Fengyu slowly walked out with Mo Liuhua and Lu Yingying. His sharp eyes stared coldly at Zhuowen and Duan Jiping. At the same time, Zhuowen also noticed that on the left, the green-robed old man silently walked out of the crowd. He didn't speak, but his sharp, murderous eyes represented what he wanted to say. "You're really enthusiastic. Brother Zhuo and I have just come out, and you're welcoming us so warmly." This Duan is a little overwhelmed by your favor. Duan Jiping's eyes narrowed as he spoke coldly. Zhuo, on the other hand, remained silent. He only looked coldly at the surrounding people, and there was no panic on his face. Seeing Zhuo and Duan Jiping's unhurried appearance, Su Zhou, Mo Fengyu, and the others couldn't help but be puzzled. As far as they were concerned, Zhuo and Duan Jiping were already like turtles in a jar. What they wanted to see was the two of them kneeling on the ground and begging for their lives. Then, they would obediently hand over the treasures they found in the tomb. Brother Mo, Gongzi Su Zhou, no need to talk nonsense. Get to the point. The green-robed old man said somewhat unhappily. Mo Fengyu grinned, but his smile was somewhat cold. He looked down at Zhuo and Duan Jiping and said indifferently, "The two of you, I think you know very well why we have surrounded you. I think you've already explored the real tomb. You've already claimed it." Zhuo revealed a look of surprise and said, "Senior Mo is joking, right? Back in the inner hall, wasn't the coffin already taken by Ziyu? What does that have to do with us?" Ziyu, who was standing behind Su Zhou, gritted her teeth in anger. Her face was red. This Zhuo was really shameless. This guy probably already knew that it was a fake coffin. Back then, he was clearly trying to trick him. "Bastard, you're really shameless. That was a fake coffin. You still have the face to say that we took it." Ziyu said hatefully. Su Zhou said indifferently, "Brother Zhua, don't pretend anymore. The coffin we got was fake, and we paid a great price for it. Lin Long and his wife also died because of it. As for you two, I haven't seen the two of you since we parted in the inner hall. And we searched the divine hall for several months, but couldn't find your figures. But you suddenly appeared here today. Clearly, you must have entered the real tomb. You must have also obtained quite a lot of opportunities." Mo Fengyu snorted coldly. "Now, you have no path to heaven and no door to hell. If you want to live, hand over your divine storage items, or die." As soon as Mo Fengyu finished speaking, his aura suddenly soared. Terrifying killing intent surged out like a tide. The surrounding cultivators also locked their killing intent onto Zhuo and Duan Jiping. Duan Jiping narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. A similarly powerful aura surged out and soared into the sky. It actually broke through the combined aura of Mo Fengyu and the other cultivators. Mo Fengyu's pupil shrank. He looked unnaturally at the terrifying Duan Jiping and said in a low voice, "You've transcended the great calamity of the universe." As soon as these words came out, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They naturally knew what Mo Fengyu meant. Didn't that mean that Duan Jiping had already condensed a cosmic dharma and become a supreme expert of cosmic dharma? If that was the case, then they were no match for this person. Even if so many of them joined forces, they were no match for a cosmic dharma. The difference was too great. No, he hasn't condensed a cosmic dharma. He should only be a beginner and has grasped a little of the laws of dharma. He's still a long way from condensing a cosmic dharma. Su Zhou narrowed his eyes and suddenly spoke. Chapter 4159. Duan Jiping glanced at Su Zhou in surprise. He hadn't expected Su Zhou, whose cultivation wasn't high, to be able to see something from him. However, what Su Zhou didn't know was that he hadn't just grasped a little bit of the law of condensing the cosmic idol, but had grasped all the laws. In addition, Duan Jiping had also absorbed all the essence of the laws left behind by Lu Yinhua's cosmic idol. If he wanted to condense the cosmic idol, it wouldn't be difficult at all. He just needed time. Su Zhou's words made the originally nervous Mo Fengyu and the others heave a sigh of relief. Their expressions returned to normal as they stared greedily at Zhuo and Duan Jiping. Zhuo frowned slightly. He looked around and realized that there were too many cultivators surrounding them. Although he had a lot of trump cards, he was now surrounded by so many cultivators. Moreover, there were true experts like Mo Fengyu, the green-robed elder, and Su Zhou. It was likely that both sides would suffer. Zhuan glanced at Duan Jiping beside him. He couldn't see any nervousness from the latter. Although he knew that Duan Jiping had benefited a lot from Liu Yinhua's cosmic idol, he didn't know how much his strength had increased. Regardless of whether Brother Zhua and I have entered the real tomb or not, this tomb is an ownerless item. Whoever takes the treasure naturally has the ability to do so. Don't you have any morals by snatching it like this? Duan Jiping said coldly. Morals? What a joke. If it weren't for us, you wouldn't even have the right to enter the Snow Flame Valley. Now, you've taken the treasure of the tomb for yourselves, and you still have the nerve to talk about morals with us? Don't you think it's ridiculous? Mo Fengyu said angrily. In that case, let's fight. You guys can join forces. I'd like to see which one of you can snatch the treasure from my hands. Duan Jiping waved his sleeve and didn't say anything else. Monstrous battle intent burst out from his eyes and soared into the sky. Zhuan had planned to join the battle, but Duan Jiping's voice transmission stopped him. Brother Zhua, leave everything here to me. Enter my Qianquan world first. Duan Jiping's voice was very serious. Zhuan silently looked at the serious Duan Jiping behind him. After thinking for a while, he nodded and entered Duan Jiping's universe world. A terrifying pressure surged out from Duan Jiping's body, and a huge universe world emerged from the void behind him. Except for the geniuses on the outer world heavenly list, all the cultivators below the great carefree realm were suppressed by this terrifying pressure. Their bodies stiffened, and it was difficult for them to move. Their eyes were filled with shock. What a terrifying pressure. Even a peak expert of the great calamity of heaven and earth would not be able to possess such a terrifying pressure. Mo Fengyu, the green-robed elder, and the other experts of the great tribulation of Qianquan had ugly expressions, but they were no longer as fearful as before. Duan Jiping was indeed stronger than the peak of the cosmic tribulation, but so what? As long as he did not condense a cosmic dharma idol, they were not afraid at all. Let's get rid of him together. Mo Fengyu shouted and was the first to rush out. A terrifying aura surged out and a huge Qianquan world phantom appeared behind him. At the same time, Mo Fengyu grabbed at the void with his right hand, and a golden staff about 10 feet long appeared in his palm. He suddenly struck out with his right hand, and the staff shot out like lightning. It immediately transformed into countless staff shadows, like a tsunami, and blasted toward Duan Jiping. Mo Fengyu's attack seemed to have set off a chain reaction. The green-robed elder and the other experts of the great calamity of Qianquan also attacked, and they all summoned their own universe worlds. Because they all knew that Duan Jiping might not be simple, they joined forces and attacked with all their strength, trying to defeat Duan Jiping in the shortest time possible. The green-robed elder waved his sleeve, and a green formation appeared in the void. Green sword light burst out from the formation, and like a rainstorm, they blasted toward Duan Jiping. The other experts of the great calamity of Qianquan also used their various magical powers. For a moment, multicolored light filled the entire purple flame divine mountain. Because it was too dazzling, even the sky was dyed multicolored. It looked very strange. The terrifying energy shockwaves were like waves that filled the sky, sweeping out in all directions in a ring-shaped state. Poochie! Poochie! Many of the surrounding cultivators could not dodge in time and were hit by the shockwaves. They all vomited blood and were sent flying. Some unlucky cultivators were even directly blown to smithereens because they were too close. Not even their bones remained. Suzhou and Ziyu did not attack. They strolled away from the battle group and stood on a mountain peak in the distance. They silently watched the terrifying collision that was unprecedented in history. At this moment, Fu Di, Ji Anshin, and the other geniuses of the outer realm heavenly ranking were silently following behind Suzhou and Ziyu. After Suzhou returned, he had become their leader again. Therefore, since Suzhou did not attack, they could not interfere. Although they were not weaker than ordinary cultivators of the great calamity of Qianquan, there were several peak experts of the great calamity of Qianquan in the battle group. If they interfered in a battle of this level, it would be harmful. Brother Suzhou, why aren't you attacking? With your strength, presumably, you also have the qualifications to compete with these people. Lai Rong said ambiguously. The black-robed elder beside Lai Rong, who was always by his side, was not here. He had already been sent to participate in the siege of Duan Jiping. His strength was not particularly strong to begin with. In addition, his injuries had not completely healed, so it was impossible for him to participate in that terrifying battle group. However, Suzhou and Ziyu were different. They were both in the top 5 of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. They were terrifying geniuses who could fight against peak experts of the great calamity of Qianquan. They were completely qualified to join that battle group. Do you really think that the man surnamed Duan beside Zhuan is so easy to deal with? I only said half of the truth just now. This man surnamed Duan has yet to condense a cosmic Dharma idol, but his strength is infinitely close to it. He's an expert, even with so many people attacking him. I'm afraid we might not be able to suppress him. Suzhou smiled faintly. What? Brother Suzhou, why didn't you say it earlier? Lai Rong frowned slightly. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. If I said it earlier, how could I be the fisherman? Suzhou sneered. Lai Rong was rather angry. In order to snatch the treasures in the tomb, he had sent the black-robed elder who was in charge of protecting him. Now, he realized that Suzhou had taken a chess piece that would cause both sides to suffer. How could he be happy? Thinking of this, Lai Rong wanted to secretly send a voice transmission to the black-robed elder and ask him to temporarily leave the battle group. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.